Have you ever wondered what stories ancient artifacts could tell? Welcome to Unearthed Secrets, where we explore the world's most fascinating discoveries. Today, we'll uncover 15 incredible artifacts, each with a story spanning thousands of years. Hit subscribe, like the video, and tell us where and when you're watching from. Let's dive into history's secrets. The hand that offered to the gods. It began with a shimmer in the soil, the faintest glint of metal where there should have been only stone and grass. On the gentle slopes of Lake Biel, Switzerland, archaeologists brushed away centuries of sleep and found something that should not have survived so long: a bronze hand, no larger than life, resting in the dark earth as though it had been waiting. The fingers curved slightly, poised as if caught between offering and farewell. The green patina of age had dulled its shine, but even beneath layers of corrosion, it seemed alive, like it could at any moment reach toward the sun that had not touched it in 3 millennia. The villagers who first saw it thought it might have been a god's relic, or perhaps a warning. Bronze, shaped in the form of a human hand, was not a common sight even in their legends. Some whispered that the hand must have belonged to a king, torn from a statue long forgotten. Others, more quietly, wondered if it had been made for something older than kings, something to do with the sky, or the dead, or both. When it was lifted from the earth, a faint hollow sound echoed within. The hand had been cast in sections with careful precision, the bronze poured and cooled, and polished by hands that had never seen writing or iron or glass. Its makers had only their skill and their faith, and somehow, that had been enough to forge this thing of beauty and mystery. No one knows exactly whose hand it was meant to represent. Perhaps it was not anyone's at all. Perhaps it was everyone's, the first attempt to mirror the divine gesture of creation itself. Bronze, after all, was not merely metal. To those who shaped it, it was breath turned solid, the union of fire and earth. To make bronze was to take control of transformation, to command a kind of alchemy that only gods should possess. Imagine that time if you can, a valley where smoke curled gently from low-roofed huts, where sheep bells carried across morning fog, and where the scent of pine and hearth-fire drifted over wet grass. Bronze was sacred then. To melt copper and tin together was to summon the warmth of the underworld and the light of the heavens into a single shimmering form. The hand would have been a marvel even to its own creators. Its fingers were crafted with quiet realism, each knuckle defined, each nail faintly marked. Whoever made it understood the human form with uncanny intimacy, but it wasn't made to be worn or wielded. It wasn't a weapon or tool. It was something else, something meant to be seen, worshipped, and feared. A votive offering, perhaps. A plea cast into metal, offered to the unseen powers that governed harvests, storms, and survival. They might have brought it to a hill where the wind never ceased. There, among stones arranged in silent circles, they could have raised it high, letting the sunlight glint from its bronze surface. The priest, or perhaps the blacksmith himself, might have held it in both hands, whispering words no one alive remembers. He would have turned it slowly to the east, to greet the dawn, then to the west, to bid farewell to the day. The ritual might have ended with the hand being buried in the earth, offered back to the same world that had given them ore and flame, and so it remained, sleeping through centuries, while entire civilizations rose and crumbled above it. The Celts came, and then the Romans. Castles were built, and then abandoned. Empires mapped and forgot this valley. Still the hand waited. Archaeologists, when they found it, also uncovered a piece of gold sheet near its wrist, thin, delicate, once wrapped around the arm like a bracelet, gold and bronze together, a union of wealth and will. The hand had been made to shine once, adorned, almost divine. Some believed it had been attached to a wooden staff or effigy, perhaps carried during ceremonies. Others suspected it once topped a pole in a sanctuary, raised above the crowd, gleaming like sunlight captured in metal. But what did it mean? Why a hand and not a face, or heart, or animal? In nearly every ancient culture, the hand held power. It was the part of the body that could shape, destroy, protect, or bless. To raise a hand was to call upon authority. To open one was to offer peace. To close one was to curse or strike. A bronze hand, then, could have symbolized all of it: creation and destruction, offering and command. A hand that never ages, never falters, never forgets. And perhaps that was the point. In the hush of prehistory, when fear and faith were one and the same, people needed symbols to bridge the distance between themselves and the unseen. The bronze hand could have been that bridge, a permanent gesture towards something greater. But maybe the truth is stranger still. Some researchers noticed small markings near the wrist, a kind of indentation, deliberate and too uniform to be accidental. Could it have been attached to something living? A wooden body, maybe? Or a statue draped in cloth and crowned with feathers? Imagine it, a towering figure, its arms outstretched, both hands gleaming in firelight, raised before a gathering of people who watched in silence. The priest chants, drums echo through the night. The bronze hand catches every flicker of flame, seeming to move even when still. Then, when the offering is complete, the hand is detached, buried beneath the altar as a promise kept. There are traces, too, of something that may once have been inside the hand, a small cavity, too perfect to be coincidence. Could it have held a relic? A lock of hair, a stone, a bone fragment, a piece of someone important, preserved in metal? That would make it not just an offering, but a vessel, a container of memory. And so the story deepens. Was it made for a god, or for a man? Was it a plea to the divine, or a way of making a human immortal in their own small way? In that quiet valley, where fog still rolls across the grass at dawn, it's easy to imagine both. Perhaps there was a man once, a leader, healer, or smith, someone whose hands shaped more than metal. When he died, the people could not bear to let him go completely. They might have asked the blacksmith, his apprentice perhaps, to forge the hand that had once guided them all, to pour molten bronze into the shape of memory. When it cooled, they placed it in the ground with offerings of food, gold, and song. Thousands of years later, that same hand would emerge again into daylight, as if reaching for recognition. When conservators cleaned it, traces of soot and organic residue were found around the edges. It had been through fire, not accidental burning, but ritual fire, controlled and intentional, the kind used in ceremonies meant to transform or release. The thought lingers. What did they believe they were freeing? In Bronze Age belief, the world was alive in ways we've almost forgotten. Stones could hear. Rivers had moods. The sun and moon were not lights, but beings. To offer something to the gods was not symbolic, it was real. A hand forged in metal could act as a messenger between realms. It could carry prayers that words alone could not. The longer you look at it, the more it seems to breathe. The fingers are graceful, curved as though poised mid-motion. The thumb bends slightly inward. A subtle detail, intentional, human. Whoever made it saw hands not as objects, but as living extensions of the soul. In museums today, the hand rests beneath glass, illuminated by soft white light. Tourists walk past, pausing to take pictures, unaware that they are looking at the first known bronze sculpture in human history, made in the form of a body part. The first attempt to capture gesture, to give permanence to what is fleeting. And yet, something about it feels incomplete, as though it still waits for the rest of its form. Perhaps its twin still lies buried somewhere nearby. Or perhaps it was never made. Perhaps one hand was enough to speak, to bless, to remember. Sometimes, in the stillness of the museum at night, when the lights dim and the air settles, the bronze surface catches faint reflections from the street outside. The hand seems to move again, fingers reaching not forward but upward, as if it still remembers what it was made for. What if it wasn't meant to offer to the gods, but to remind them? To remind them of the people below, of their devotion, their hope, their need to be seen. A small enduring gesture cast into eternity, saying, "We were here, we believed." And perhaps in its own quiet way, the hand has succeeded. For 3,000 years, it has outlasted its makers, their homes, their language, even their gods. It has crossed from faith to history, from ritual to mystery. It is not just a relic, it is communication, still ongoing. So, as you listen and drift, imagine the moment it was made, molten bronze pouring into a carved mold, smoke rising, heat shimmering. Somewhere nearby, a river murmurs. The smith waits, breath held, as the metal cools. He does not know that what he creates will survive beyond his grandchildren, beyond his world. When the mold breaks, the hand appears, smooth, gleaming, perfect. He lifts it to the light and feels something stir inside him. Awe, fear, maybe even love. He knows it must be given away, returned to the earth or the sky. But for a heartbeat, it feels like holding the divine itself. And when he lets it go, placing it into the ground, whispering words of farewell, the world seems to grow still, as if listening. Then silence. The soil folds over it, time passes, and the hand sleeps again. A hand that offered to the gods, and in doing so became one of the gods' last remaining witnesses. The board that taught kings to think. They found it where the wind never stops moving, high in the Anatolian plateau, where the hills fold like ancient parchment, and the dust remembers footsteps no one has taken in centuries. At first it was only a slab of stone, square and unassuming, half buried in the soil of a forgotten settlement. But as the dirt was brushed away, the faint lines began to appear, interlocking grids, worn smooth by time, etched with a patience that belonged to another world. It was an ancient chessboard, older than any court, any crown, any written rule. The archaeologists worked quietly that morning, their voices subdued, as though the air itself asked for silence. The board was carved from a single piece of pale limestone, its surface divided with perfect symmetry. Each square, some lighter, some darker, had been filled once with mineral pigment, now faded to ghostly shades. There were no pieces left, only the board itself, waiting like a puzzle half remembered in a dream. They dated it to nearly 1500 years ago, long before chess had crossed from India into Persia, and far before it would become a pastime of kings. Yet here it was, in the heart of ancient Anatolia, a relic that spoke not of war or worship, but of thought, a place where strategy had once been born in silence. Imagine that age, the late shadows of empire stretching across the land, traders traveling from the east with silk, ivory and stories, monks moving westward with scrolls of knowledge. Somewhere in that slow tide of exchange, a new kind of thinking had taken root. A game, they called it. Though it was never only that, the ancient board might once have rested on the floor of a stone house, or perhaps a temple, or even the hall of a forgotten noble. The room would have smelled of smoke and tallow, the air heavy with the warmth of bodies gathered close. Two men would have sat opposite each other, their robes dusted with travel, eyes fixed not on each other but on the grid between them. Around them, others would have watched in silence. On that board, armies were not made of blood, but of ideas. Kingdoms rose and fell in silence, measured not by force but by foresight. Each move was a whisper against fate. To play was to imagine, to predict, to rule within the boundaries of a dream. It is strange to think that stone could remember thought, but the board seemed to. Each groove held the faint imprint of fingers, the smoothness where hands had rested too long. There were faint burn marks on one edge, as if a candle had leaned too close. Someone had spent long hours there, playing through the night until dawn blurred the horizon. No one knew what the pieces had looked like. Maybe they were bone, or glass, or carved from wood now long gone. Perhaps each piece represented more than its movement. Perhaps it was a symbol, a prayer, a fragment of belief. The villagers nearby still tell stories about stones that speak when the wind passes over them. They say the board belonged to a scholar who dreamed of the stars, or to a priest who tried to outthink the gods. One legend claims it was used not for play, but for prophecy, that each piece moved according to celestial signs, and that the outcome of the game could foretell the rise and fall of rulers. In the evenings when the dig site quieted, and the sun dipped low, the lead archaeologist often stayed behind. She would sit by the board, the light fading to gold around her, and imagine the minds that had once bent over this same surface. The stones seemed to hum beneath her fingertips. Not sound exactly, but memory, a vibration older than language. She began to wonder if the first game ever played there had truly ended, because what is chess, after all, but the reflection of life's endless tension between movement and stillness, order and chaos. The first player lifts a piece, and in that gesture the universe divides, choice and consequence entwined. Perhaps the board had once been more than entertainment. Maybe it had been a tool for teaching rulers how to rule, how to see beyond impulse, to understand that every decision carried unseen ripples. It is easy to picture a teacher sitting across from a young noble, guiding his hand. This, he might have said, moving a stone across the board, is not a soldier, it is a thought. Protect it, or lose yourself. There is power in the act of play, especially when play mirrors the world. Maybe that is why the game endured. Even as the empire fell, the rules changed, the languages shifted, the board remained. The shape of thought survived, even when the thinkers were gone. When they lifted it from the ground, the archaeologist noticed something unusual. Beneath the chess lines, barely visible under layers of wear, were older carvings, symbols that did not belong to the grid, spirals, suns, tiny markings like runes. The board had lived other lives before it became a game. Someone had taken an older sacred tablet, perhaps an altar or calendar, and repurposed it. The game of kings was carved atop the language of gods. The mind had been laid over the divine. It was a quiet rebellion, a transformation of faith into logic. In that moment, humanity had changed. The board was not just a relic, it was a record of the mind's awakening. Night comes early in Anatolia. As the last light fades, the landscape glows with a soft copper hue, and shadows stretch across the stones. The same wind that once carried the sound of distant bells still moves through the hills. Sometimes it passes over the dig site and makes the tarps flutter like wings, and sometimes it seems to whisper, a sound like the slide of pieces across stone. The archaeologist once dreamed of it. In her dream, she stood in a vast hall, lit by torches. The board was before her, newly made, its squares dark and gleaming. Across from her sat a figure in shadow. She could not see his face, only the outline of his hand resting on a carved piece. When he moved, the piece made no sound. She looked down to see that her side of the board was empty, only his pieces moved, each one advancing silently toward her. When she woke, she could still feel the texture of the stone beneath her fingers. She told no one. Perhaps that is how the game teaches, by reminding us that every decision, even imagined, leaves an echo. The board now rests in a museum, under glass, its faint lines preserved by gentle light. Children press their hands to the display, tracing the grid with their eyes. Some smile, not realizing that the game they play on plastic and screens carries the same pattern, the same inherited geometry of thought. Every square on that ancient surface was a universe. Each move, a question. Each loss, a lesson. What did they call it back then? Not chess, surely. Maybe they called it the dance of minds, or the balance of kings. Maybe it had no name at all, just silence between moves, and the unspoken knowledge that the one who understood patience would always win. The wind shifts again, centuries later, and the board still waits. Some say that games are only echoes of life, but perhaps life itself is a game carved into the world, a great board upon which time moves its unseen pieces. The hands that once played here are dust now, yet their gestures survive. Every thoughtful pause, every careful risk, every sacrifice, they are all still there, written into the rhythm of the squares. When you stand before it, it almost feels alive. The lines seem to pulse faintly beneath the glass, like veins of light trapped in stone. If you close your eyes, you can almost hear the sound of the first move being made, a soft click, a breath, the beginning of 1,000 years of thought. Somewhere beyond history, the players are still thinking. The cream that reflected an empire. It rested quietly, hidden beneath layers of soil and time. A small jar of clay glazed faintly with the fingerprints of its maker. The earth around it had settled over centuries, muffling the noise of empires that rose and fell above it. When it was finally uncovered in England, archaeologists could hardly believe what they held, a preserved jar of cosmetic cream from ancient Rome, perfectly sealed in its age-darkened clay, its surface mottled with the dust of centuries, but inside, a faint aroma still lingered, subtle and almost human. The jar was small, delicate, a vessel meant for careful use, not for display, and yet in its quiet presence it carried the weight of the Roman world. Not the battles or conquests, but the softer, daily lives that built the empire, the rituals of self, the practices of beauty and status, the quiet intimacies that no historian ever records. This was civilization captured in miniature, a trace of human desire, care, and vanity preserved as carefully as gold or marble. Imagine Rome itself in that era, the streets lined with marble columns, the markets alive with the scent of spices, fresh bread and smoke from hearths. In homes both grand and modest, women and men prepared themselves each morning, anointed with oils, balms, and creams. This jar, tucked away in a villa on the outskirts of Londinium, would have been part of that daily ritual, a reminder that even as empires expanded, even as soldiers marched and senators debated, life was also made of small, intimate acts. The cream itself was pale, almost ivory, flecked with traces of herbs and minerals that spoke of Roman knowledge of nature, chemistry, and luxury. Ingredients that had traveled from across the empire, olive oil from Hispania, powdered lead for smoothness, flower extracts from Gaul, were all blended here, in a jar perhaps held by the hand of a woman who knew the weight of beauty, the power of scent, the subtle influence of appearance. Who held it first? Perhaps a matron rising early, the sun filtering through a window of thinly sliced alabaster, dust motes shimmering in the golden light. She uncorked the jar with care, her fingers brushing against the cool clay, and dipped a fingertip into the creamy substance. She applied it slowly, deliberately, tracing her face in patterns meant to convey health, youth, and influence. In those moments, the empire itself seemed to pause. To us, it is only cream, but to her, it was identity, status, and ritual. Each application was a small claim over time and mortality, a quiet defiance of age and fate. Even the scent mattered. It lingered in the rooms, on the clothes, in the hair, and perhaps even in the air of the villa, leaving invisible traces of her presence for hours, maybe days. Over centuries, the jar was lost. The villa crumbled, walls fell, soil shifted, and the empire's boundaries changed. Roman Britain faded into memory, replaced by Saxons, then Normans, then generations that walked above the buried jar without knowledge of its existence. And yet it survived, tucked away, waiting for hands curious and careful enough to uncover it. When modern archaeologists found it, they approached it with reverence. Not every discovery is about power or violence. Some are about touch, scent, and the human desire to preserve identity. They measured it, catalogued it, noted the subtle residues, the tiny cracks that told stories of age and use. And they could imagine, almost palpably, the hands that had used it, the fingers that had shaped the cream, the faces that had been touched by it. The world glimpsed through the ritual of daily preparation. The jar also tells a story about trade, connectivity, and the vast reach of Rome. The ingredients inside it were not local. They had traveled hundreds, perhaps thousands of miles. Olive oil from the Mediterranean, crushed herbs from North Africa, pigments from distant provinces, all blended into a single mixture and carried to the northern edge of the empire. Each scoop of cream was a testament to a world connected across seas and deserts, roads and rivers. The empire's pulse felt in the quiet intimacy of personal care. It is strange, almost uncanny, to hold a jar that has survived so long. You can almost feel the centuries of quiet observation, the invisible hands that held it, the careful lids replaced, the tiny fingerprints, now fossilized in clay. It becomes a bridge between eras, a reminder that beneath the grand narratives of history, wars, politics, dynasties, there was life lived in these small, human ways. And so we imagine the woman applying the cream, the scent of herbs filling the room, sunlight warming her face, a servant bringing water in a bronze pitcher, the distant sound of the river beyond the villa. Perhaps children are awake, playing quietly, the dog curled at their feet. The cream is not just cosmetic, it is part of the rhythm of existence, part of what it meant to be alive in that place and time. Through centuries the jar remained. Perhaps it was hidden intentionally, to preserve it, or simply forgotten in the collapse of walls and memory. Through the long centuries of weather, invasions, and human passage, the jar retained its essence, and within it, the faint traces of the life it had touched. It speaks to us now not only of beauty, but of endurance, of the desire to leave something behind that is wholly human. Even today, when the jar rests under controlled light in a museum case, its presence evokes that same intimacy. Visitors may not touch it, may not smell it, may not dip a fingertip into the cream, yet in imagining the hands that did, the faces that were cared for, the rituals performed, they feel the empire pulse quietly beneath the centuries. Each observer becomes part of the continuity, linking past and present in the silent act of witnessing. It is a small artifact, but it carries enormous weight. Not in gold, not in stone, not in empire, but in connection. A connection to lives once lived, to rituals of beauty and care, to the quiet moments that make history human. Each scoop of the cream is a whisper across time. Each finger that touched it left a trace. Each breath of fragrance was a message to the world. To sit quietly and imagine it is to enter the mind of an ancient person, to feel their care, their concern, their desire to present themselves to the world with dignity and grace. Perhaps it was vanity, perhaps it was art, perhaps it was devotion. In any case, it was a conscious act, a way of shaping identity and presence in a world that could be unpredictable, harsh and fleeting. The jar also reminds us that history is made in layers. The same villa that held this cream may have been a home, a workshop, a meeting place, a quiet sanctuary. The walls witnessed laughter and grief, celebration and mourning, while the cream remained a constant companion to daily life. In this way, the artifact is both ordinary and extraordinary. Ordinary in its daily use, extraordinary in its preservation, its survival, and the story it carries forward. And so we reflect on it, imagining the hands that used it, the faces it touched, the distant sun that warmed the room, the wind that carried scents of herbs and earth through open windows. The jar is not just an object, it is a conduit of human experience, connecting us with those long gone. The cream itself might no longer be fragrant, its ingredients faded or transformed by time, yet its essence remains in memory, imagination, and the silent record of its existence. It is a reminder that even small acts, small objects, can survive and speak across millennia. That what seems fleeting, the touch of a finger, the trace of scent, the ritual of care, can become eternal in the right hands, and in the quiet preservation of time. The coins that traveled kingdoms. They lay buried for centuries beneath the fertile soil of the Bohemian forests, small discs of gold and silver that once carried the weight of kingdoms, commerce, and human ambition. When archaeologists uncovered them, the coins gleamed faintly through layers of dirt, their edges worn smooth by countless hands, their designs still faintly visible, a Celtic warrior, a swirling pattern of sun and spiral, the symbol of a people who had thrived long before empires had names. Each coin was more than currency. It was a messenger, a piece of history that had traveled through time, through hands of traders, kings and travelers, across forests, rivers, and mountains, speaking silently of trade, trust, and value. Imagine the lands of the ancient Celts, dense forests where sunlight barely touched the ground, rivers twisting like silver threads through mossy banks, villages of round huts with thatched roofs, smoke rising gently from hearths. In this world, gold was rare and precious, not just for wealth but for its connection to the divine. To hold a coin was to hold a fragment of power, a promise of value, a piece of the community's trust and prosperity. The coins themselves were small, portable, perfectly crafted to circulate through a society that relied on both barter and the symbolism of precious metals. They were stamped with intricate designs, each swirl and curve telling a story. A warrior riding into battle, a stylized horse leaping through abstract shapes, patterns that seemed to shift when viewed in different lights. Each coin carried the hands of artisans who worked with patience, who understood metal as both art and utility, transforming raw gold and silver into a vessel of meaning. It is easy to imagine a Celtic trader walking through a forest path with his pack of goods, grain, wool, pottery, these coins hidden in his satchel. He would stop at another village, exchanging one coin for another, for supplies, for favors, for trust. Each coin passed from hand to hand, carrying the stories of its previous owners, imprinting a memory of movement, trade, and survival. Some of these coins might have been offerings, placed in sacred groves near rivers or hills, meant to appease spirits, to bring fortune, to honor ancestors. The Celts believed the land itself was alive, imbued with spirits and gods who watched, who guided, who rewarded and punished. To leave a coin in a hidden pool, or beneath the roots of an oak, was to communicate with forces beyond sight, an act of devotion, a gesture of hope. And so these coins traveled, from hand to hand, from village to village, through markets, across rivers and over mountains. They crossed paths with warriors marching to defend their homes, with women weaving wool beside fires, with children playing under the dappled light of ancient forests. Each coin was silent, yet spoke volumes, a carrier of trust, ambition, and ritual. In time, kingdoms rose and fell, shifting alliances reshaping the land. Tribes fought over territory, yet still, these coins persisted. They were hidden in caches during times of war, buried under stones to preserve wealth from raiders. And when peace returned, they resurfaced, ready to circulate once more, a testament to continuity and resilience. The archaeologists who uncovered the Czech cache were struck not only by the coins' craftsmanship, but by the sheer journey they had undertaken. Gold and silver survive, even when wood rots, when stone crumbles, when stories are forgotten. These coins were survivors, relics that carried centuries of human action within their small, circular forms. Each coin tells a story, of the hands that struck it, of the traders who used it, of the markets that hummed with life, of the sacred offerings that disappeared into pools and groves. They tell a story of human ingenuity, of the need to measure value, to trade fairly, to symbolize worth in a tangible form. In these coins, the abstract idea of commerce becomes something real, tactile, enduring. Imagine holding one, feeling the smooth, cool metal beneath your fingertips, tracing the etched symbols with wonder. You would feel a connection not just to the Celts who minted it, but to all who touched it afterward, the farmer, the merchant, the warrior, the priest. Time collapses in such moments. Past and present coexist, connected through a small piece of metal that has endured centuries. The patterns are not merely decoration, they are language, symbols of identity and belief, crafted to communicate across generations. Spirals representing the sun, animals representing strength, abstract designs encoding tribal identity, all of it speaks to a sophisticated culture that valued artistry, symbolism, and continuity. Some of the coins show wear from heavy use, their edges smoothed by countless hands, suggesting they were practical as well as symbolic. Others remain pristine, perhaps reserved for special ceremonies, gifted to allies, offered to gods. The mix of circulation and ritual demonstrates a nuanced understanding of value, both material and spiritual, a culture deeply aware of the layers of meaning a single object could carry. Even today, the coins carry that power. To observe them is to witness centuries of human activity distilled into small circular objects. They evoke the forests, rivers, and villages where they were first used. The lives of traders, artisans, and leaders, the rhythm of daily existence punctuated by offerings, exchanges, and ceremonies. They survived because they were gold and silver, yes, but more than that, they were crafted with intent, care, and understanding of permanence. The human desire to leave something enduring, to communicate across generations, is embedded in every curve, every stamp, every weight of the metal. Archaeologists study them, weigh them, categorize them, but there is always more than can be measured. Each coin carries intangible stories. The anxiety of a trader hiding them from raiders, the pride of an artisan finishing a perfect design, the hope of a priest offering them to deities, the curiosity of a child examining one in secret. As centuries passed, these coins were buried, forgotten, and rediscovered, reminding us that history is layered. What seems mundane, a coin, a token, a unit of trade, can carry immense human significance. It is the mundane elevated to monumentality through persistence, context, and human attention. When viewed under light, the coins still gleam faintly, a whisper of the sun that once shone on fields and forests, on workshops and market stalls, on hills and rivers. The gold and silver seem almost alive, reflecting not just light but memory. Each observer feels a silent connection, a bridge to people who lived, thought, and believed long ago. In quiet moments one can imagine the coins moving again, through forests, across rivers, into villages, handed from trader to traveler, from parent to child, from devotee to priest. Each transaction is a story, each journey a thread in the tapestry of Celtic life. Even now, when the coins rest in a display case in the Czech Republic, behind glass and under careful light, they retain the energy of movement, exchange, and ritual. They are more than metal, they are a testament to human civilization, to the creativity, foresight, and continuity that allowed small objects to travel across kingdoms and centuries. They are evidence that even something as small as a coin can hold the weight of culture, commerce, and belief, that even objects so simple in form can carry stories of connection, ambition, and human ingenuity. That time, no matter how long, cannot erase the touch of hands, the thought of minds, or the journeys of objects made with care and intent. The idols that whispered time. Buried for centuries beneath layers of soil, sand, and time, the demo idols rested quietly in the heart of central India. Unearthed only in the last decades in Madhya Pradesh, these 15 rare idols belong to the Kalachuri era, dating from the 10th to 11th centuries, a period of rich artistic and spiritual activity. Each idol was small enough to hold, yet carried the weight of devotion, belief, and human intention across centuries. The first time they were revealed, it was as if a whisper of history had been lifted from the earth. Dust fell from their carved surfaces, revealing delicate features, carefully sculpted expressions, and postures that seemed almost alive despite the centuries of silence. Hands once molded by artisans, fingers once tracing symbolic gestures, remained frozen in stone, whispering stories of worship, ritual, and the quiet life of a kingdom long vanished. Imagine the temples that once held these idols, the stone walls echoing with the soft chanting of priests, the scent of burning incense drifting lazily through corridors, the flickering of oil lamps casting dancing shadows on carved pillars. The idols, placed with reverence, witnessed rituals of prayer, offerings of flowers, rice and oil, and the soft hum of devotion that rose and fell like the wind through the trees outside. Each idol tells a story beyond its physical form. One may have represented a goddess of fertility, another a god of protection, yet another a deity whose name is now lost to time. The faces, though eroded, still exude calm authority, a reminder that centuries ago people knelt before them with hope, fear, and gratitude. The smallest cracks in their stone hint at centuries of exposure to the elements, the hands of worshippers brushing against them, perhaps offering small gifts, tying threads, or whispering prayers into the ears of carved gods who would listen in silence. These idols were not merely religious objects, they were embodiments of culture, of artistry, and of human imagination. Each curve of the stone, each delicate fold of a garment, each expression captured a vision of divinity as imagined by people whose daily lives were a mixture of hardship, devotion, and quiet celebration. They remind us that faith is not only in grand temples or towering statues, but also in the intimate presence of a small object that carries profound meaning. Consider the journey of one of these idols before it was buried. Perhaps it was crafted in a bustling workshop, the sculptor's hands steady, chisel cutting stone with rhythmic precision, breath held in concentration. The piece would have been transported carefully to a local temple, carried on wooden frames or by hand, through villages alive with market sounds, children running barefoot across paths, oxen pulling carts laden with grain and firewood. Finally, it would be placed on an altar, surrounded by flickering lamps, flowers, and the gentle hum of devotion. Over time, kingdoms rise and fall, wars are waged, and temples are abandoned or destroyed. But these idols remained. Some were buried deliberately to protect them from invaders, others lost in the slow accumulation of earth over centuries. And yet, beneath the soil, they endured, preserving not only their stone forms but also the echoes of prayers, rituals, and the devotion of countless hands across generations. When modern archaeologists uncovered them, they were meticulous in their care. Each idol was carefully lifted, cleaned, and catalogued. Even in their quiet laboratory, away from the temple's ritual energy, they seemed to hum with the memory of centuries, as if aware that human eyes once again examined them, studied them, and marveled at the artistry and devotion imbued into their forms. The artistry is remarkable. Despite the small size of some idols, the Kalachuri artisans displayed mastery in proportion, balance, and expression. The faces convey serenity, authority, and sometimes even a subtle smile, suggesting a nuanced understanding of human emotion and divine symbolism. The postures, some seated in meditation, others standing in poised readiness, reflect a sophisticated knowledge of gesture and the way it communicates meaning. Even now, looking at these idols, one can imagine the world they inhabited. A village rises in the morning mist, the soft crowing of roosters blending with distant temple bells. Farmers tread across fields heavy with dew, their tools digging into the rich soil. Women carry water from rivers, balancing jars on their heads. Children chase each other along narrow paths, laughter echoing across the landscape. And in the temple lit by flickering lamps, the idols stand silently, witnesses to the rhythm of life, the passage of seasons, the joys and struggles of daily existence. The demo idols also speak of faith as a form of continuity, a thread connecting generations. The same stones that once felt the touch of hands 1,000 years ago now feel the careful attention of archaeologists, researchers, and visitors. In examining them, one cannot help but feel connected across time, a silent dialogue unfolding between the past and present. Consider a devotee kneeling before one of these idols centuries ago, offering flowers, murmuring a prayer for health, for family, for prosperity. That prayer dissolves into time, yet the physical gesture, the hands brushing the stone, the flowers left at the base, remains. The stone absorbs and holds these gestures, becoming a repository of human hope and belief. Some of the idols bear traces of pigments, faded but still hinting at the vibrant colors that would have once adorned them. Reds, blues, and golds painted in careful layers, enhancing the spiritual presence of the figures, making them more vivid and lifelike. To ancient worshippers, these colors were not merely decorative, they were conduits for divine energy, invoking protection, blessings, and guidance. Over centuries, these pigments wore away, the stone surfaces softened by touch, wind, and rain. Yet even in their current subdued forms, they retain a dignity and presence that transcends the passage of time. To observe them is to witness endurance, the resilience of human creativity, and the quiet persistence of devotion. The excavation itself was a delicate process. Every brush stroke, every careful lift of soil, every catalogued movement was a meditation on patience and respect. The archaeologist understood that these idols were more than stone, they were vessels of memory, faith, and artistry, deserving of reverence and careful study. When displayed in a museum or research facility, the idols seem to breathe with a life of their own. Visitors stand in quiet contemplation, imagining the hands that shaped them, the voices that murmured prayers before them, the lives that revolved around the temples where they once stood. The small gestures, the offerings, the daily devotion, all echo across centuries, carried silently in the forms of stone. Through them, one can explore the intersection of faith, artistry, and daily life. The idols are not merely religious symbols, they are cultural artifacts, embodying the worldview of a civilization, the spiritual imagination of a people, and the continuity of human experience. They remind us that even small objects can carry immense meaning, preserving knowledge, ritual, and devotion long after empires have faded. The Damo idols speak in silence, yet their message is profound. They are reminders of human curiosity, creativity, and spirituality. They tell us that even as time moves forward, as empires rise and fall, as civilizations evolve, the traces of individual lives, of belief, care, and artistry can endure, waiting for someone to notice, to hold, to imagine once more. In their quiet presence, one feels a connection not only to the Kalachuri artisans who shaped them, but to every human who sought meaning, protection, or beauty in the sacred, who devoted attention to the spiritual, who left traces of hope for generations yet to come. The stone seems to hum faintly beneath your gaze, vibrating with centuries of ritual and life. Each idol is a bridge, connecting the distant past to the present, inviting reflection on the persistence of faith, art, and human expression. They remind us that time does not erase devotion, that art can survive empires, that faith endures not only in grand temples or towering statues, but also in the smallest, most intimate of forms, that even a single gesture, a single offering, a single hand-carved idol, can whisper across centuries, connecting us to lives once lived and stories once told. The walls that harvested time. Buried deep within the sands of Egypt's Saqqara necropolis, the tomb of Kentika holds secrets that have survived thousands of years, waiting patiently for human eyes to witness them once more. Its limestone walls, meticulously painted, capture not just the likenesses of men and women, but the rhythms of life, the cycles of nature, and the agricultural seasons that sustained a civilization along the lifeline of the Nile. When modern archaeologists first stepped into this tomb, the air was thick with centuries of stillness, dust motes floating in the shafts of light that entered through narrow passages. The walls, though faded, still glimmered with the echoes of a civilization that measured life by the rise and fall of the river, by the planting of seed, and the gathering of harvest. The paintings themselves are extraordinary in their detail and composition. Farmers bend low to the earth, sowing grain with careful hands. Oxen pull plows through dark, rich soil, their muscles straining beneath the yoke. Women carry baskets brimming with vegetables and fruits, heads bent slightly as they balance their loads. Children play at the margins of these scenes, their movements captured in frozen gestures that suggest both playfulness and the continuation of daily life. Each figure is a story, a fragment of a world where survival depended on harmony with the seasons, where every act of planting and harvesting was an act of devotion to the gods who controlled the Nile's waters. Imagine the tomb's creator, the artist or artisans, moving carefully along the limestone walls, brushes dipped in natural pigments, applying reds, ochres, blues, and greens. Each stroke was deliberate, an act of both artistic expression and ritual significance. They understood the spiritual weight of their work. The paintings were not mere decoration, but a means of preserving life beyond death. The deceased, Kentika, would rely on these depictions to ensure continuity, to live eternally through the cycles of planting, growth, and harvest. In the cool silence of the tomb, the brushstrokes seem almost alive. One can imagine the faint smell of pigments mixed with water, the scrape of stone under the careful hand of the painter, and the soft chant of prayers offered as the work progressed. Every gesture, every line, every hue was infused with purpose, a bridge between the earthly and the eternal. The agricultural scenes themselves reveal much about the rhythm of life in ancient Egypt. The planting season, when the Nile receded and left the soil fertile, is depicted with meticulous attention. Farmers measuring furrows, casting seeds, and preparing irrigation channels. The inundation of the Nile, the lifeblood of the land, is suggested in the flow of painted lines and the careful arrangement of figures, emphasizing the deep connection between human labor and divine providence. Harvest scenes, full of motion and abundance, celebrate the rewards of labor, the fruits of patience, and the harmony between human effort and natural cycles. Even the smallest details speak volumes. Birds scatter across the fields, perhaps drawn to the grain sown by diligent hands. Cats, sacred and watchful, sit near the homes painted in the background, silent observers of daily life. Tools are depicted with precision, showing not only their form but the way they were used. Every object, every living being, every posture contributes to a comprehensive story of survival, community, and devotion. The tomb's walls also tell of social structures and relationships. Farmers, laborers, and overseers are shown together, their interactions hinting at hierarchy and cooperation. Women are not merely passive figures, they carry, harvest, and work, their presence integral to the functioning of society. The interplay of roles, the subtle gestures, the arrangement of scenes along the wall, all communicate a nuanced understanding of human dynamics, governance, and cultural priorities in Kentika's time. As the centuries passed, the tomb remained hidden beneath sand and debris, untouched by the shifting empires above. Pharaohs rose and fell, invaders came and went, civilizations changed, yet these paintings survived. They absorbed the silence, the weight of the earth pressing down, the slow passage of seasons long after the humans who painted them were gone. The limestone itself became a vessel for memory, holding within it the cycles of life, labor, and belief. Modern observers, stepping carefully into this space, are immediately transported. The visual narrative flows across the walls, from planting to harvest, from river to field, connecting the living with the dead, the observer with the observed. The paintings do not simply depict events, they invite reflection, meditation, and immersion. One can almost hear the rustle of leaves, the clatter of tools, the distant murmur of the Nile, and the quiet prayers whispered to ensure life and sustenance. To walk along these walls is to experience time differently. The paintings compress centuries of agricultural knowledge, human skill, and spiritual devotion into static images that pulse with meaning. They are not frozen, they move subtly in the mind's eye. Farmers bend, women carry, children leap, birds scatter, and cats watch. Each frozen gesture suggesting life in motion, rhythm, and continuity. The pigments, though faded, retain a depth that allows the imagination to reconstruct vibrant colors of the past. Red ochre for the soil, green for the vegetation, blue for the waters of the Nile, gold for the sun, each color chosen, not only for aesthetic pleasure, but for symbolic resonance. The artist understood that color communicates as powerfully as form, that the choice of pigment could invoke protection, fertility, and divine favor. Even the tomb's spatial layout reinforces the cyclical nature of life. Scenes are arranged to move the viewer's eye along paths of labor, growth, and reward, mirroring the natural flow of the year. Planting precedes growth, growth precedes harvest, harvest precedes storage, and storage ensures survival until the cycle begins again. In this way, the tomb is not just a static memorial, but a visual embodiment of time, rhythm, and eternity. The human connection remains profound. To imagine Kentika, lying within the tomb, relying on these depictions to sustain life in the afterworld, is to feel a bridge across millennia. The paintings are promises, assurances that as long as the images endure, the labor and devotion they depict will continue, the seasons will be perpetuated, and life itself will remain intertwined with the divine. Each detail, each figure, each gesture is a testament to the artist's care and the society's values. The paintings celebrate labor and fertility, honor the river's bounty, and affirm the importance of harmony between humans, nature, and the gods. They are profound in their simplicity, elegant in their composition, and powerful in their enduring capacity to communicate across time. Even today, as one stands before the walls, imagining the cycles of planting and harvest, the rise and fall of the Nile, the quiet diligence of ancient farmers, the presence of Kentika, and the devotion of the artisans, one can sense the timeless pulse of life itself. The tomb does not merely preserve images, it preserves experience, connection, and memory, offering a silent conversation between the past and the present. the walls that harvested time, remind us that civilization is not built solely on grand monuments or battles, but on daily acts of labor, care, and creativity. They teach us that the cycles of nature, the flow of the river, and the devotion of individuals sustain life, and that even after thousands of years, these acts can speak to those who come after. They are a meditation on endurance, on rhythm, on humanity's intimate relationship with the land and the divine. And so the tomb of Kentica, its walls painted with care and purpose, stands as a testament to the continuity of life, the permanence of devotion, and the quiet persistence of human culture. They invite us to pause, to imagine, to breathe slowly, and to connect with the timeless rhythms of an ancient civilization. The coins that sank with fortune. Beneath the restless waves off Florida's east coast, a fleet of Spanish ships once carried treasures beyond imagination. The 1715 Treasure Fleet, a convoy of vessels laden with gold, silver, and precious artifacts, sailed across the Atlantic, their hulls heavy with wealth accumulated from colonies in the New World. But the sea, unpredictable and unforgiving, claimed the fleet in a violent storm, scattering coins, ingots, and artifacts across the ocean floor, burying centuries of human ambition beneath sand, silt, and salt water. Among the wreckage, over 1,000 gold and silver coins now lie in quiet repose, their surfaces dulled by time, yet still bearing the intricate markings of mints and monarchs. Each coin tells a story. The kingdom it represents, the hands that struck it, the journeys it undertook, and the sea that swallowed it in a single furious night. They are relics of commerce, of empire, of the relentless human desire to accumulate, to protect, to pass on wealth across generations. Imagine the coins as they left the Spanish mints, freshly struck, shiny and cool to the touch, each embossed with royal insignias, dates, and intricate designs. Carried across continents, they journeyed from artisan workshops to treasuries, then to the docks, loaded carefully onto ships alongside silver bars, gold ingots, spices, and luxury goods destined for Europe. Each coin represented value, trust, and the intricate networks of trade that spanned oceans. As the fleet set sail in 1715, the sea shimmered under the summer sun. Sailors adjusted the sails, officers checked logs, and merchants ensured that the treasure remained secure. The journey was long and perilous, the Atlantic stretching endlessly, waves rising and falling like mountains of liquid silver. The coins, resting within wooden chests, felt nothing, yet their fate would soon intertwine with the fury of nature. When the storm struck, the ship struggled against massive waves, the wind tearing at sails and masts. Men clung desperately to rigging, shouting orders above the roar of thunder and crashing water. The treasure, once secure, was no match for the ocean's rage. Wooden chests broke apart. Coins spilled into the sea, tumbling endlessly into darkness, tumbling into silence that would last centuries. And so the coins rested beneath the ocean, shifting with currents, sometimes buried under sand, sometimes resting atop coral and debris. They became part of an underwater landscape, mingling with shells, stones, and the occasional fragment of a ship's hull. Time passed slowly, measured not by clocks, but by the movement of water, the erosion of metal, the gradual encroachment of marine life. Fish brushed past, seaweed curled around them, and tiny organisms colonized their surfaces, adding layers of history to every coin. It is impossible to overstate the patience of the ocean. Unlike human hands that move quickly, impatiently, the sea moves with its own rhythm. Coins shifted slowly, carried by tides, settling in hidden pockets where they would remain undisturbed until modern explorers arrived. Divers and treasure hunters, drawn by legends of sunken riches, descended into the depths, carefully sifting through sand and coral, feeling the thrill of discovery, tempered by the reverence of history. Holding a recovered coin is to hold a fragment of a story frozen in metal. You can trace the inscriptions, the faint marks of wear, the imperfections caused by centuries underwater. Each coin speaks not only of material wealth but also of human aspiration, the desire for prosperity, the risk undertaken to transport riches across treacherous seas, the trust in navigators, in weather, and in fate itself. Some coins were small, easily carried, meant for trade, for daily use in distant markets. Others were larger, heavier, reserved for significant transactions, gifts to royalty, or payment for goods of immense value. Together they form a microcosm of an entire economic system, illustrating the intricacies of commerce and the global reach of empire, even 3 centuries ago. Imagine a coin that once passed from a miner in Peru to a ship captain in Havana, then to a merchant in Spain, only to sink in a storm off Florida. Its journey is more than a sequence of locations. It is a tapestry of human intent, adventure, and ambition. Centuries later, it emerges again, carefully extracted from the sand, and placed into the hands of those who marvel at history, contemplating the lives intertwined with its passage. The coins also speak of loss. Ships sank, men perished, fortunes disappeared. Entire communities felt the ripple of disaster, as wealth meant to circulate through empires vanished beneath the waves. Yet, in this very loss, the coins found a different kind of immortality, preserved, hidden, waiting to be discovered, to inspire wonder, curiosity, and reverence. In the quiet of a modern collector's or museum display, the coins gleam softly under controlled light. They are no longer at the mercy of waves and storms, yet they carry the memory of the ocean within them, the pressure, the movement, the silent passage of centuries. Each coin is a storyteller, whispering tales of adventure, danger, human ambition, and the unpredictable hand of fate. The intricate designs remain remarkable. Royal insignias, mint marks, and inscriptions offer glimpses into governance, culture, and aesthetics of the early 18th century. The coins were not just currency, they were symbols of power, legitimacy, and trust. To gaze upon them is to imagine the courts of Spain, the bustling ports, the conversations of merchants negotiating prices, and the careful oversight of those responsible for ensuring the safe transport of wealth. Even now, recovered from the sea, the coins invite reflection on time, human endeavor, and the intersection of nature and human ambition. They are reminders that no treasure, no matter how carefully guarded, is immune to the forces of the natural world, and that in the surrender to these forces, history preserves both cautionary tales and enduring beauty. Through them we feel a connection to those long ago, sailors struggling against the storm, merchants counting their gold, artisans minting coins in distant workshops. The coins form a bridge across centuries, linking past ambition with present curiosity. The story of the 1715 Treasure Fleet coins is one of movement, loss, and rediscovery. It teaches us about the fragility of human plans, the enduring mystery of the sea, and the beauty of objects that survive, carrying with them centuries of experience, hope, and imagination. Each coin is more than metal. It is a vessel of memory, a witness to the dreams and endeavors of countless hands, a silent testament to adventure, courage, and the relentless march of time. The treasures that worshipped the mother. Deep within the rolling hills of modern-day Turkey, where the landscape stretches in soft, undulating curves dotted with wildflowers and ancient stone, lie the remnants of a temple long abandoned, but never forgotten. This temple, dating back approximately 2,700 years, belonged to the Phrygians, a civilization whose beliefs, artistry, and devotion continue to echo through time. It was dedicated to Cybele, the mother goddess, revered as the nurturer of life, protector of cities, and sovereign of nature itself. The artifacts discovered within its walls, ceramics, figurines, votive offerings, and ritual implements, are more than objects. They are the silent witnesses of devotion, the tangible residues of faith, artistry, and human longing that survived centuries of change and decay. Imagine approaching the site, the air warm with the gentle sun, the scent of earth and wild herbs mingling in soft eddies. The temple walls, though partially crumbled, rise from the ground like solemn guardians of history. Stones weathered by wind and rain, bear marks of hands long gone, and the ground is strewn with fragments of pottery and metal that hint at the richness once contained within. As the archaeologists carefully brush away layers of soil, dust, and time, each artifact revealed seems to awaken, telling its story with quiet insistence. The first objects uncovered were small, delicate figurines carved from clay or cast in bronze. Each figure carries a presence that is both intimate and commanding. Some represent Cybele herself, seated on a throne or standing tall, her head crowned with a mural crown, symbolizing her dominion over mountains and cities. Her attendants, animals sacred to her, lions and other beasts, stand nearby, immortalized in stone or metal, guardians and companions in the spiritual world. These small figures, though fragile, exude a silent authority. They are the heart of the temple, the objects around which rituals and prayers were centered, connecting the physical to the divine, the mortal to the eternal. Consider the journey of one such figurine before it rested beneath layers of earth for nearly 3 millennia, crafted by the hands of an artisan skilled in both precision and devotion. The clay was kneaded carefully, shaped with intention, and adorned with pigments that, though faded, once glimmered in the temple's soft light. Bronze figures were cast with equal care, molds created with painstaking attention to detail, metal poured, cooled, polished, and placed upon altars with reverence. Every object, every gesture of craftsmanship, carried devotion, the hope that the goddess would see, protect, and bless those who worshipped her. Inside the temple, rituals unfolded in a rhythm as old as the hills themselves. Priests and priestesses moved gracefully through spaces defined by stone and shadow, bearing offerings of food, incense, and flowers. The air was filled with soft chants, the low hum of voices blending with the rustle of garments and the quiet movement of feet on stone floors. Light from oil lamps flickered across walls, adorned with symbols, casting long, dancing shadows that seemed to animate the very stones. The artifacts themselves became part of this living tableau, central to worship, conduits through which the prayers and hopes of countless devotees flowed. Each votive offering discovered tells a story of human yearning, of gratitude, or of petition. Small clay tablets bear inscriptions, names of worshippers, and simple prayers requesting fertility, protection, or health. These objects, sometimes overlooked as simple or mundane, carry immense significance, embodying the personal relationship between humans and their gods. They are the traces of lives lived in devotion, ordinary people striving to connect with forces beyond their control, seeking blessings for their families, crops, and homes. Among the treasures, ceremonial vessels are found, cups, bowls, and jars designed not for mundane use but for sacred purposes. Their surfaces are often inscribed or embossed with symbols of life, fertility, and protection. Each detail intentional, each curve and indentation imbued with meaning. These vessels held oil, wine, or water during rituals, their contents transformed by the act of offering into sacred nourishment, sustenance not for the body, but for the spirit. To touch them today is to feel the weight of countless ceremonies, the echo of hands and voices that once animated the temple with devotion. The Phrygian temple also reveals glimpses of the festivals and communal gatherings that honored Cybele. Imagine the temple courtyard alive with movement, the sound of drums and flutes, the scent of flowers and incense drifting through the air. Worshippers, dressed in flowing garments, process through columns and courtyards, carrying offerings and singing hymns to the mother goddess. Lions, both real and symbolically represented, signify strength, courage, and protection. The artifacts discovered, small figurines of lions, carved reliefs, and painted ceramics, allow us to reconstruct these scenes, to imagine the festival's energy frozen in time but vibrant in memory. Consider, too, the personal devotion reflected in smaller, portable objects. Pendants shaped like the goddess, charms designed to be worn or carried, amulets meant to protect homes or livestock. Each tells a story of intimate faith. A mother might have placed a small figurine near her child, hoping for health and protection. A farmer could have carried a charm into the fields, seeking a bountiful harvest. These artifacts connect us to the daily lives of people whose existence intertwined with belief, whose small acts of devotion form the hidden backbone of history. The artistry of the Phrygian craftsmen is remarkable. Despite limited tools and materials, they achieved forms of great sophistication and beauty. The goddess herself is often depicted with serene authority, her posture composed, her features calm, yet her presence is commanding. Attendant figures, humans, animals, or mythical creatures, demonstrate the intricate knowledge of anatomy, movement, and symbolism possessed by these artisans. Even in their smallest works, the care and intention are evident, reflecting a culture that valued both precision and spiritual resonance. Over centuries, the temple fell into disuse. Empires shifted, populations migrated, and the once sacred space became quiet and overgrown. Yet beneath the soil, the artifacts endured. Clay hardened into durable form, bronze resisted corrosion, and the imprint of devotion remained etched into every object. Time, which can erode, also preserves. The slow burial of the temple beneath the earth became a protective cocoon, allowing the treasures to survive long after the rituals ceased. When modern excavators uncovered the temple, it was as if history had sighed and revealed its secrets. Each artifact was lifted with meticulous care, documented, and preserved. The small figurines, once central to worship, now find new purpose as teachers, guides for understanding ancient belief, artistry, and daily life. Archaeologists, historians, and visitors alike are drawn into their silent presence, imagining the centuries of devotion, the prayers whispered, the rituals performed, and the hands that shaped each object with intention and care. Even today, the artifacts exude quiet power. The mother goddess remains watchful, her form commanding respect and awe. Lions crouch, poised for protection, and small votive offerings continue to speak of faith, connection, and the human desire to reach beyond oneself. Each object is a bridge across time, connecting contemporary observers with lives lived in devotion, with societies structured around faith, and with human experiences both ordinary and sacred. The Phrygian temple artifacts also invite reflection on the interplay of nature, belief, and art. Cybele as a mother goddess embodies fertility, protection, and the nurturing of life. Her image in sculpture, ceramic, and metal reflects the understanding that humans are part of a larger world, reliant on cycles of growth, seasons, and divine favor. The artifacts are reminders that art and spirituality are not separate from daily life, but integral, shaping how people understood their world, their responsibilities, and their hopes. Walking through the temple in imagination, one can sense the rhythm of devotion, the quiet moments of prayer at dawn, the rhythmic chant of festivals at dusk, the delicate handling of offerings by priests and worshippers, and the attentive gaze directed toward the artifacts themselves. Time seems suspended here, the past and present merge, and one can almost hear the murmur of ancient voices carried on the wind. The discovery of the artifacts allows modern minds to reconstruct rituals, festivals, and social structures of the Phrygian people. It is a glimpse into a world where religion was deeply intertwined with daily life, where the material and spiritual worlds coexisted in harmony, and where objects were more than utilitarian, they were sacred vessels of memory, intent, and devotion. Even now, scholars study the smallest details: the tilt of a head, the positioning of hands, the texture of a surface, the residue of pigments. Each observation deepens understanding, reveals connections between artistic style and spiritual practice, and illuminates the intricate ways in which belief shaped life. The artifacts are not passive. They invite interaction, reflection, and imagination, encouraging a dialogue between the living and the departed, the observer and the observed. The treasures that worshipped the Mother embody endurance and continuity. They remind us that even when civilizations fade, when temples crumble, and when time erodes human endeavors, devotion leaves a trace. Faith, artistry, and human creativity endure in forms both fragile and resilient, offering insight into the past and inspiration for the present. To imagine the temple at the height of its use is to experience a world alive with ritual and reverence. The scent of incense, the flicker of lamplight, the low hum of collective prayer, the careful handling of sacred artifacts, all of this forms a rhythm that resonates across millennia. The artifacts are conduits for this rhythm, reminders of the intimate, profound, and enduring connection between humanity and the divine. Even in modern display, whether in museums or in careful digital reconstructions, the artifacts retain their power. They invite slow observation, meditative reflection, and immersive imagination. A simple figurine becomes a portal, a small votive offering, a conversation across centuries, a ceremonial vessel, a touchstone for understanding human belief, creativity, and daily life. These objects, silent yet eloquent, communicate the values of a people, the devotion of worshippers, and the skill of artisans. They remind us that history is preserved not only in grand monuments or written records, but also in the quiet, intimate objects that carry memory, prayer, and artistry through time. And so, as we contemplate the treasures of the Phrygian temple, we are invited to pause, to breathe, to imagine, and to connect. Each artifact is a whisper of devotion, a vessel of memory, a bridge across millennia, linking the living with the long gone, the observer with the worshipper, and the present with a sacred past. The treasures that slept in silence. Hidden beneath the rolling hills of central Italy, in a landscape dotted with olive groves and cypress trees, lies a tomb that has slumbered undisturbed for nearly 3 millennia. Within its earthen chambers, over 100 Etruscan artifacts have rested in silence, untouched by human hands since the 7th century BC. Pottery, bronze weapons, personal ornaments, and ceremonial objects remain preserved, each carrying the weight of time, the echo of rituals long forgotten, and the quiet stories of lives once vibrant with purpose and devotion. Imagine approaching the tomb, the warm Italian sun casting soft shadows across the hillside. The air is fragrant with the scent of herbs and wild flowers, blending with the faint, dusty aroma of earth that has cradled the tomb for centuries. As modern archaeologists uncover the entrance, their brushes sweep away layers of soil with reverence, revealing the threshold to a world suspended in time. Each artifact glimpsed for the first time is a portal, a whisper from the past, a testament to the skill, faith, and everyday life of a people whose civilization flourished long before the rise of Rome. The pottery, varied in form and decoration, tells us much about the Etruscan way of life. Large storage jars once held grains, wine, or oil, vital to both sustenance and ritual. Smaller vessels, intricately painted, likely served in ceremonial contexts, holding perfumes, oils, or offerings to the gods. The decorations, geometric patterns, mythological scenes, or depictions of animals are rich with symbolic meaning, reflecting beliefs, stories, and aesthetic sensibilities. Each curve, each line, each carefully painted figure speaks of artisans who worked with patience and intention, who understood that the objects they created would endure long after their own lifetimes. Weapons found in the tomb, bronze swords, daggers, and arrowheads, carry the silent echoes of both protection and status. They hint at a society structured with hierarchy, where warriors were revered, and martial skill intertwined with social prestige. Yet even in their martial purpose, these objects are beautiful, their surfaces polished, edges carefully shaped, hilts often adorned with decorative motifs. They are not merely tools of conflict, they are art, crafted with care, and imbued with the values and aspirations of a people who honored both strength and beauty. Among the personal ornaments, necklaces, bracelets, and pins offer intimate glimpses into the lives of those interred within the tomb. Each item was worn with purpose, whether for decoration, religious significance, or as a protective charm. The delicate filigree, the careful setting of gemstones, and the subtle patina accumulated over centuries tell stories of daily life, personal identity, and the quiet devotion of artisans who transformed simple metals into vessels of expression. As we imagine the tomb in its original context, the scene becomes vivid. A family prepares for the final journey of a loved one, offering not only the necessities of life, but objects imbued with meaning. Priests or ritual specialists perform ceremonies to guide the deceased into the afterlife, ensuring that the journey beyond is safe, respected, and honored. Each artifact placed within the tomb is deliberate, chosen to accompany the departed, to protect, to sustain, and to signify status, wealth, or piety. The silence that enveloped the tomb for centuries allowed these treasures to survive nearly intact. While the world above changed, empires rose and fell, cities grew, wars reshaped landscapes, the tomb remained undisturbed, a sealed repository of memory. The artifacts became more than objects, they became vessels of continuity, carriers of history, keeping alive the traditions, beliefs, and artistry of the Etruscan civilization. Even now, as one stands before these artifacts in a museum or archaeological site, the connection to the past is palpable. The weight of bronze in one's hand, the smooth curve of a ceramic vessel, the faint traces of pigment or engraving, allows the imagination to reconstruct a world long vanished. One can almost hear the faint echoes of conversation, ritual chants, the scraping of tools against clay or metal, and the whispered prayers of a family ensuring that their loved one would be honored in the next world. The tomb's architecture itself enhances this experience. Chambers are carved with precision, the stone chosen for durability and symbolic resonance. Narrow passageways guide the flow of movement, both for the living and, symbolically, for the soul of the deceased. Niches and alcoves house artifacts carefully arranged to convey meaning, hierarchy, and ritual significance. Every space, every object placement, and every decorative detail is intentional, creating a dialogue between life, death, and the divine. In addition to physical beauty, the artifacts reveal social structures, trade networks, and cultural interactions. Pottery styles reflect influences from neighboring civilizations. Metals bear marks of distant sources, and inscriptions hint at language, belief, and the expression of identity. The tomb is not merely a resting place, it is a record of human ingenuity, connection, and aspiration, preserved in material form. One can imagine the artisans at work, hands shaping clay, heating metal, carving details, painting scenes with pigments derived from minerals and plants. Each action is deliberate, each object carefully finished, for the creator knew that these treasures would accompany the dead, and in doing so would speak for centuries to those who could interpret their silent language. The meticulous attention to detail, the patience, and the devotion evident in these artifacts underscore the profound respect the Etruscans had for life, death, and memory. Even the smallest details invite contemplation: a chipped edge on a vessel, a slight irregularity in a necklace, the wear on a weapon's handle. All these traces tell stories of human interaction, usage, and ritual. They remind us that these objects were not merely decorative, they were functional, practical, and intimately connected to daily life. Yet at the same time, they transcend the mundane, connecting those who made, used, and cherished them with forces beyond the ordinary, the spiritual currents that guided belief and ritual. The treasures that slept in silence speak to the universality of human experience. They reveal a people who valued artistry and devotion, who sought to honor their dead with care and intention, and who understood that objects could carry memory, meaning, and protection across time. They teach that even in silence, objects can speak, carrying the accumulated wisdom, hope, and reverence of generations long gone. As we reflect on the Etruscan tomb, the imagination is drawn to the broader landscape. Hills roll gently into the horizon, olive trees sway in the breeze, and the sunlight illuminates the contours of a world both ancient and familiar. One can picture the living walking these hills, tending fields, participating in ceremonies, crafting objects with care, and understanding their place within the cycles of life and death. Each artifact from the tomb serves as a key, unlocking a fragment of this ancient world, allowing modern minds to wander through history, to feel the rhythms of life and devotion, and to witness the continuity of human aspiration. The tomb, its artifacts, and the surrounding landscape together create a meditation on endurance, memory, and the beauty of human creativity. They invite slow observation, deep thought, and immersive reflection. A simple ceramic vessel becomes more than clay. It is a conduit for stories, a testament to skill, a reminder of faith and family. A bronze sword is not merely metal, it is a symbol of protection, valor, and societal structure. Jewelry and ornaments are not only adornment, they are vessels of identity, personal devotion, and aesthetic expression. Even after thousands of years, the artifacts remain powerful. They speak not only of the past but to the present, offering a quiet, enduring connection between generations. They remind us that civilization is built not only through monumental achievements but also through the careful crafting of objects, the quiet rituals of daily life, and the devotion to memory, community, and the divine. Standing in contemplation before these treasures, one can feel the passage of time slowing, the rhythm of centuries aligning with the heartbeat of the present. The tomb, though silent, hums with the energy of those who built, used, and cherished its contents. Each object carries a story, a whisper, an echo, guiding the observer gently through time, connecting the human spirit across millennia, and offering a moment of calm reflection, meditation, and immersive imagination. The treasures that slept in silence are more than remnants. They are companions, guides, and teachers. They offer insight into art, culture, belief, and daily life. They encourage curiosity, empathy, and wonder. They remind us that objects, carefully created and preserved, can bridge vast spans of time, carrying the essence of civilizations into the hands, eyes, and hearts of those who come after. Even today, as scholars and enthusiasts study the artifacts, their discoveries are layered with awe, reverence, and imagination. They can trace the movement of materials, interpret the symbolism of decorations, and reconstruct the lives of individuals long gone. Each step of this exploration, each brush of a finger across a vessel, each careful observation of an ornament or weapon, is a conversation across centuries, a dialogue between the living and the long departed, between history and the present. The tomb remains a profound reminder of the resilience of human culture, the importance of memory, and the enduring power of creation. Through the treasures that slept in silence, the Etruscans continue to speak, offering guidance, inspiration, and reflection to all who pause to listen, observe, and imagine. The relics that hallowed the hills. Nestled among the gentle hills of what is now central Turkey, the Matar Temple rests silently, a place where devotion, artistry, and human belief intertwined nearly 3 millennia ago. The temple, dedicated to Cybele, the mother goddess, once echoed with ritual chants, the soft clatter of ceremonial vessels, and the reverent footsteps of worshippers. Within its stone walls, artifacts of extraordinary craftsmanship have endured, carrying with them the stories of faith, life, and the quiet power of a civilization long past. As the first rays of sunlight touch the hills, imagine approaching the temple, the earth warm beneath your feet, wildflowers swaying in a gentle breeze. The air carries the faint scent of herbs, incense, and the richness of soil that has held these treasures safe for centuries. Archaeologists uncover the entrance with meticulous care, brushing away layers of dust and time, to reveal a doorway into a world frozen, waiting to share its secrets. Each object revealed, figurines, ceremonial vessels, votive offerings, and personal ornaments, seems to breathe slowly, as though waking from an age-long slumber. Among the artifacts are small clay and bronze figurines representing Cybele herself, often depicted seated on a throne, her head crowned with symbols of authority over the natural and spiritual world. Lions, sacred to the goddess, accompany her in miniature, crafted with precision, their forms full of strength and grace. These figurines were not mere decoration. They were central to worship, conduits between mortal devotion and divine presence, held in the hands of priests and worshippers who sought protection, fertility, and guidance. Consider the hands that made these objects. Artisans, guided by reverence and skill, shaped clay and cast bronze with deliberate care. Each curve, every line, each engraved detail, carries intent. Some figurines bear the faint traces of pigments, once vibrant with color, now soft and faded with centuries of time. These details, however subtle, connect us to the imagination and devotion of those who lived, prayed, and worked in the temple, reminding us that art and faith were inseparable in their world. Ceremonial vessels discovered within the temple are equally remarkable. Cups, bowls, and jars, often adorned with intricate symbols, once held offerings of oil, wine, or water. These substances, transformed by ritual into sacred elements, were presented to the goddess with prayers whispered or sung in the soft glow of oil lamps. The vessels, with their delicate patterns and purposeful designs, were instruments of devotion, linking the material and spiritual realms. Votive offerings, small and intimate, tell personal stories of faith. Tiny charms, amulets, and inscriptions carry prayers for protection, fertility, health, and prosperity. A mother might have placed a figurine near her child. A farmer might have offered a small vessel before sowing his fields. Each object, though silent, communicates a history of hope, gratitude, and the human desire to connect with something greater than oneself. Imagine the temple alive with ceremony. Priests and priestesses move gracefully through columns and courtyards, their robes swaying with every step. The rhythmic beat of drums echoes through stone chambers, soft chants harmonize with the wind, and the scent of flowers and incense mingles with the earthy aroma of the temple floors. Lions, both real and symbolic, crouch in carved reliefs or figurines, guardians of sacred space. Through the careful placement of these artifacts, the temple itself becomes a living narrative, a reflection of a world where devotion and artistry were inseparable. The temple's architecture enhances the experience. Stone walls, carefully carved niches, and alcoves house objects with intention, creating spaces that guide worshippers through ritual, reflection, and connection with the divine. Each chamber, each artifact, is a silent teacher, instructing observers on the values, beliefs, and practices of a society that revered life, fertility, and the cycles of nature. Over centuries, the temple fell silent. Winds, rain, and seasons passed, and the stones became weathered. Yet the artifacts endured beneath layers of earth and dust. The quiet preservation allowed them to survive, unbroken, holding within their forms centuries of devotion and artistry. When modern archaeologists carefully uncovered these treasures, they revealed more than objects. They revealed voices from the past, a dialogue with the living, and a bridge across millennia. The artistry of the Phrygian craftsmen is evident in every detail. Bronze figurines, though small, convey strength, serenity, and dignity. Clay objects bear inscriptions and designs that communicate symbolic meaning, often linked to fertility, protection, and divine authority. Even the smallest votive charm speaks volumes about human belief, intimate faith, and the universal desire to find connection and reassurance in the presence of something greater. Holding these artifacts, one can imagine their journey before they rested in the temple. The clay was shaped by hands guided by both skill and devotion. The bronze poured into molds, cooled, polished, and adorned. Each object passed through the lives of artisans, worshippers, and priests before finding its place in the temple, a testament to human intention and care. The temple's relics also reveal glimpses of social and spiritual life. Festivals likely filled its courtyards with music, dance, and ritual, while daily worship involved quiet offerings, meditations, and prayers. Artifacts designed for both public and private devotion show the integration of belief into all aspects of life. They are evidence of a society deeply connected to its gods, to nature, and to one another, where the sacred permeated the ordinary. Even now, the artifacts maintain their power. Cybele's miniature lions seem to watch. Her seated figurines command attention, and every vessel and charm carries the weight of centuries of human hope and reverence. They are teachers, reminders, and guides, connecting observers to lives and beliefs long past. Through careful study and reflection, one can reconstruct scenes of worship, imagine rituals, and feel the rhythm of life within the temple walls. The Mater Temple artifacts, in their endurance, also remind us of the fragility and strength of human endeavor. Civilizations rise and fall, yet objects crafted with intention, imbued with devotion, and preserved through care, can endure, offering insight and inspiration across millennia. They are silent witnesses, storytellers, and vessels of memory, inviting contemplation, imagination, and meditation. As we reflect on the treasures that hallowed the hills, it is possible to imagine walking through the temple at dawn, oil lamps flickering, the scent of incense rising, hands gently lifting offerings, voices whispering prayers, and artifacts illuminated in soft golden light. The temple, though silent for centuries, lives in these objects, in the stories they carry, and in the connection they create between past and present. Even today, scholars, historians, and curious observers can feel the resonance of these relics. They encourage slow, careful observation, reflection, and a deepening appreciation for artistry, faith, and human creativity. Every detail, every surface, every carefully crafted shape opens a window into a civilization whose devotion, skill, and understanding of the world were profound. The Matar Temple artifacts remind us that time, while capable of eroding, also preserves. They are bridges across centuries, connecting the living with those long gone. Each object is a fragment of human intention, devotion, and artistry, preserved for those willing to pause, observe, and imagine. Walking through the hills surrounding the temple today, one can sense the lingering presence of those who once built, used, and cherished these treasures. The wind rustles through olive trees, sunlight glints on stones, and shadows shift gently across ancient reliefs and sculptures. The past feels alive, not as history alone, but as an ongoing conversation between the people who made the temple, the artifacts that remain, and the observers who engage with them now. The treasures that hallowed the hills are more than objects, they are connections. They link imagination to devotion, artistry to faith, and the present to a past that continues to speak, silently yet eloquently. They invite wonder, reflection, and meditation, encouraging those who encounter them to slow down, observe, and feel the rhythm of human life, as it once intertwined with the sacred. Every figurine, vessel, and charm, preserved beneath centuries of earth, carries a whisper of devotion. They speak of faith, artistry, and the quiet perseverance of culture. Even in their silence, they teach, guide, and inspire. They remind us that devotion, care, and human intention can transcend centuries, surviving in the shapes, textures, and forms that endure long after civilizations fade. And so, as we contemplate the Mater Temple and its treasures, we are invited to pause, to imagine, and to connect. We walk among the hills, breathe the air, feel the earth beneath our feet, and allow the artifacts to speak across time. Through them, the Phrygians continue to teach us, to inspire us, and to remind us that even in silence, history carries its profound and eternal message. The axe that shaped continents. Hidden among the rolling green hills of ancient Ireland, a polished stone axe lies in the memory of the land, a silent witness to the ingenuity, perseverance, and daily life of early humans. Carved from hard, durable stone, shaped and polished by patient hands thousands of years ago, this axe is not merely a tool, it is a symbol of the skill, intelligence, and enduring spirit of the people who first walked the landscapes that would become rich with history and legend. Imagine a misty morning on the edge of a Neolithic settlement. The air is cool, tinged with the earthy aroma of wet soil and the faint scent of wild grasses. A craftsman sits quietly beside a river, carefully selecting a piece of stone, feeling its weight, its texture, and its potential. With steady hands, using other stones as hammers and chisels, he chips away at the rough surface, shaping it into an edge that is both functional and precise. Hours, days, perhaps even weeks are devoted to this creation, until the surface is polished to a smooth finish, and the axe becomes a testament to skill, patience, and human ingenuity. The polished edge gleams softly in the early sunlight, reflecting not just light but the labor, thought, and care invested in its making. This is more than a tool for cutting wood, crafting shelters, or preparing food. It is a bridge between humans and their environment, an extension of human will and ingenuity, allowing early humans to shape the land, to manipulate resources, and to build the foundations of settled life. Within the small Neolithic community, the axe is both practical and symbolic. It is used to fell trees that will become the frames of longhouses, to split timber for firewood, and to carve wooden implements for daily life. Each swing, each strike, resonates with purpose, connecting the labor of the individual to the survival and growth of the community. The rhythm of axe against wood, the steady pulse of effort, becomes a soundtrack to life, a quiet yet powerful narrative of early civilization. Yet the axe's significance extends beyond utility. It carries social meaning, representing status, expertise, and knowledge. A finely polished stone axe, carefully crafted, is recognized by the community as the mark of a skilled artisan, someone who understands not only the properties of stone, but also the broader needs of the settlement. It is admired, respected, and perhaps even offered in ritual, bridging the gap between the material and the spiritual, the practical and the symbolic. As we imagine the settlement, we see a landscape alive with activity. Families tend to small fields, cultivating barley, wheat, and other early crops. Livestock grazes peacefully, watched over by attentive hands. Fires flicker in the hearths of simple homes, and the sound of tools shaping wood and stone mixes with the chatter of daily life. The polished stone axe is ever present, a companion in survival, a testament to skill, and a tool of transformation. The axe also offers insight into the broader context of Neolithic life. Its craftsmanship reflects experimentation, observation, and learning, passed from generation to generation. Early humans observed the natural properties of stone, tested the sharpness and durability of different materials, and refined their techniques through trial and error. Each axe represents not only individual effort, but also collective knowledge, a lineage of human understanding embedded in stone. Consider the tactile experience of holding such an artifact. Even after thousands of years, the surface is cool and smooth, shaped to fit comfortably in the hand. The edge, though dulled by time, hints at the precision and care that went into its creation. Every curve, every polished facet, speaks of intention, attention, and a deep connection between human labor and natural resources. Beyond its physical form, the axe embodies the relationship between humans and the environment. Early communities depended on forests for shelter, fuel, and tools. The ability to shape trees, clear land, and build structures transformed the landscape, enabling settlements to thrive. In this way, the stone axe is more than a tool. It is an instrument of adaptation, shaping both the world and the societies that inhabit it. Ritual and symbolism are also intertwined with the axe. Some axes may have been placed in burial sites, included among the possessions of the deceased, as offerings, symbols of strength, skill, or protection for the journey into the afterlife. These ceremonial uses highlight the spiritual dimension of early technology, reminding us that practical objects can also carry meaning beyond their utility. As centuries passed, these axes, once indispensable tools, became silent witnesses to the evolution of human societies. They survived long after the communities that made them had transformed, moved, or vanished, carrying with them the story of innovation, labor, and the intimate bond between humans and the land. Modern archaeologists uncover these axes with care, revealing surfaces smoothed by millennia, and edges that still suggest the precision of their original use. Holding such an axe today connects us to the distant past in a profoundly tactile way. It reminds us that even in an age without metal, engines, or machines, humans demonstrated remarkable ingenuity, patience, and creativity. Each artifact carries lessons about observation, adaptation, and the capacity of humans to manipulate the environment with intelligence and foresight. The landscape around these axes was transformed by their use. Trees felled with stone axes became homes, shelters, and communal structures. Wood carved into tools, utensils, and implements facilitated farming, cooking, and crafting. The axe enabled a rhythm of life that allowed communities to flourish, bridging the gap between survival and civilization. Even the quiet presence of the axe tells us about human connection to their surroundings. Stone chosen from riverbeds or quarries, shaped with care, carried over distances, and used in daily life, reflects a deep understanding of geology, material properties, and craftsmanship. The effort invested in creating each axe underscores the value early humans placed on tools that combine durability, effectiveness, and beauty. The aesthetic qualities of the polished stone axe also deserve attention. Its symmetry, the gentle taper of the blade, and the smooth tactile surface reveal a concern for refinement and elegance, even in objects designed for practical tasks. This aesthetic sensibility demonstrates that early humans were attuned not only to function, but also to form, integrating artistry into the fabric of daily life. Imagine the axe in use, swinging through the morning mist, felling a tree destined to become part of a longhouse. Sparks of stone against wood, the rhythmic thud of the blade, and the smell of freshly cut timber fill the senses. Children watch in quiet admiration, learning from elders, understanding both technique and purpose. The axe becomes a teacher, a connector across generations, transmitting knowledge through action and example. The axe's influence extends beyond individual settlements. Communities sharing techniques for polishing, shaping, and using axes contributed to broader networks of knowledge and culture. Trade of raw materials, sharing of methods, and communal learning fostered cooperation, innovation, and the spread of technology across regions. In this way, the stone axe is not only a local tool but a vector of cultural continuity and technological evolution. Even after centuries, the polished stone axe speaks to the human capacity for foresight, planning, and adaptation. Each curve and bevel represents decision-making, observation, and the deliberate effort to create something enduring. The axe embodies a philosophy of craftsmanship, where labor, skill, and purpose converge, resulting in an object that sustains both life and legacy. The presence of these axes in archaeological sites also illuminates rituals, social structures, and daily practices. They provide clues about settlement patterns, resource management, and communal priorities. They tell us who might have held authority, who crafted tools, and how labor was organized. These insights offer a window into the structure and values of early human societies. Moreover, the axe invites reflection on the passage of time. It bridges the millennia between early Neolithic communities and the present, surviving as a tangible link to human ingenuity and daily life. Its polished surface and carefully honed edge are reminders of the continuity of human creativity, curiosity, and adaptation. As one contemplates the Neolithic stone axe, the mind wanders to the broader landscape: misty hills, dense forests, meandering rivers, and open plains. The communities that shaped, used, and treasured these axes inhabited a world both familiar and alien to us, their lives intertwined with the land in ways that shaped not only survival but culture, belief, and artistry. The axe, silent yet eloquent, continues to teach. It encourages mindfulness, observation, and appreciation for the care invested in creation. It reminds us that even in a world without modern conveniences, humans demonstrated ingenuity, foresight, and an aesthetic sensibility that resonates across thousands of years. Every edge, every polished surface, every weight carefully balanced in the hand tells a story of human intention, labor, and connection to the natural world. The axe is a vessel of memory, a keeper of knowledge, and a bridge between the past and present. It invites us to slow down, imagine, and connect with lives that existed long before our own, to appreciate both the practical and spiritual dimensions of early human technology. And so, as we gaze upon the polished stone axe, we are invited to imagine the hands that made it, the communities that depended upon it, and the landscapes it helped shape. We can hear the faint echoes of labor, the rhythm of survival, and the whisper of generations whose ingenuity and artistry endure in stone. The axe that shaped continents is more than a tool. It is a testament to human creativity, perseverance, and the enduring bond between people and the land. Its story carries lessons of adaptation, innovation, and mindfulness, offering a quiet meditation on the profound ways in which humans interact with their world, leaving marks that survive not only in stone but in memory and imagination. Even today, when held, studied, or simply imagined, the axe continues to connect us to the distant past. Its presence evokes contemplation, respect, and wonder. It bridges time and space, inviting reflection on human history, ingenuity, and the remarkable capacity to shape both objects and landscapes. Through this single polished stone, we can experience the lives of Neolithic peoples, their labor, their rituals, their imagination, and their care for the world around them. It is a window into the past, a guide for curiosity, and a gentle companion in the quiet exploration of human history. The axe that shaped continents endures as a reminder that even in silence, objects speak. They carry knowledge, culture, and memory across millennia. They teach patience, skill, and reverence for the natural world. They invite imagination, contemplation, and a deep meditative connection with human creativity and history. And so, the stone axe rests, polished and precise, a silent yet eloquent witness to the ingenuity, care, and resilience of early humans. Through its presence, we are invited to journey across time, to feel the rhythm of life long past, and to marvel at the enduring power of human creativity in shaping both tools and the world itself. The molds that forged civilization. Hidden among the sunlit hills of ancient Crete, in the town of Palikastro, lie the remnants of a civilization devoted to craftsmanship, artistry, and ingenuity. Among the archaeological treasures unearthed are clay molds, simple at first glance yet holding profound significance, tools that enabled the creation of bronze implements, weapons, and ceremonial objects. These molds are silent witnesses to the Minoans' extraordinary ability to transform raw materials into objects that shaped their society, reflecting skill, foresight, and the intimate connection between human hands and the resources of the earth. Imagine walking through a Minoan workshop 3.5 millennia ago. The air is warm with the Mediterranean sun filtering through open windows, carrying the scent of wet clay, smoldering furnaces, and the sea breeze drifting from the nearby coast. Craftsmen and craftswomen move deliberately among tables and workbenches, their hands coated in clay and soot. Each mold is carefully prepared, smoothed, and designed to receive molten bronze, transforming it into a precise shape. The process is meticulous, requiring patience, dexterity, and knowledge passed down through generations. The clay molds themselves are remarkable objects. Some are designed for axes, others for knives, spearheads, or decorative elements. Each has its contours and cavities carefully carved, anticipating the flow of molten bronze. Even before metal touches the mold, the shape embodies planning, precision, and imagination. These molds were not just tools, they were the templates of civilization, translating human intent into tangible, lasting forms. The process of casting bronze is both science and art. The Minoans prepared furnaces with heated stones and controlled flames, melting a mixture of copper and tin until it became liquid gold-like metal. The molten bronze was then poured carefully into the molds, filling every curve and corner. When the metal cooled, the molds were gently removed, revealing axes, knives, and other implements, objects of utility, beauty, and power. In this quiet workshop, life unfolds rhythmically. Children play nearby, learning the ways of artisans by observation. Apprentices sweep the floors, prepare raw materials, or carry molds from one workstation to another. The artisans speak softly, sharing advice, techniques, and wisdom. Each movement is intentional, blending routine with artistry, labor with precision. The molds, though silent, are central to this environment, a focus of skill and care, enabling creation, innovation, and the advancement of society. These tools of production extend far beyond the workshop. Axes cast from the molds build homes and communal structures. Knives and spearheads provide sustenance and protection, and ceremonial objects, crafted in bronze, convey social and spiritual meaning. The molds, in essence, shape not only metal, but the lives, safety, and culture of the Minoan people. They are instruments of civilization itself, bridging imagination and material reality. Each mold tells its own story. Small imperfections hint at human touch, moments of trial and error, and the learning process of generations. Some designs are elegant and symmetrical, while others are practical, functional, yet imbued with an understanding of proportion and balance. Every cavity carved into clay reflects knowledge of metallurgy, geometry, and material behavior, a blend of observation, experimentation, and applied intelligence. Imagine the ritual and reverence surrounding these molds. Bronze, a precious material, was not casually handled. Its transformation required care, respect, and attention to detail. Ceremonial axes and objects cast from these molds might have been dedicated to gods, presented in ritual, or displayed as symbols of status. The molds themselves, though unassuming, were vessels of potential, holding the promise of power, utility, and artistry. Through the passage of centuries, these clay molds have endured, preserving the technical and creative prowess of the Minoans. Archaeologists uncover them with gentle hands, brushing away layers of dust and soil that have protected their forms. Despite the millennia, the contours remain clear, the cavities visible, and the potential of what they once created still imaginable. In their preservation, these molds become teachers, offering insight into technology, culture, and daily life in an age before modern industry. Holding a Minoan mold in imagination is a tactile journey. One can feel the cool texture of clay, shaped and smoothed by hands that understood both form and function. One can envision the warmth of the workshop, the flickering light of furnaces, and the anticipation as molten bronze fills the cavity, transforming from liquid metal to a solid emblem of human skill. These objects are not only remnants of tools, they are bridges across time, connecting past creativity to present imagination. The broader context of these molds illuminates the society that created them. Palekastro, a bustling center of trade, religion, and art, was interwoven with networks of knowledge. Artisans learned from one another, shared techniques, and innovated collectively. These molds represent not only individual skill, but communal wisdom, a testament to collaboration, learning, and cultural continuity. Consider the life of a bronze axe cast from one of these molds. Once cooled and polished, it may have felled trees, shaped homes, or become a weapon of defense. Perhaps it accompanied a warrior into battle, gleaming in the sun, an extension of human strength and strategy. Alternatively, it may have been an offering, placed in a sacred space, a tangible connection between mortal effort and divine blessing. In every scenario, the molds are central, giving form to objects that influence society, survival, and belief. Even the smallest details carved into the clay convey meaning. Lines, grooves, and patterns were deliberate, guiding molten bronze and influencing the final product. Some may have included symbolic designs, integrating aesthetic beauty with functional necessity. These molds demonstrate that Minoan artisans approached creation with intention, blending practicality, artistic sensibility, and cultural expression. Walking through the imagined workshop, one sees the rhythm of creation. The furnace glows warmly. Apprentices assist in moving molten metal, and artisans focus on shaping, pouring, and finishing. Every mold, every cast object, is part of a network of labor, knowledge, and creativity. This continuous flow of production sustains life, builds culture, and embeds human ingenuity into the very landscape of Crete. The clay molds also reflect the Minoans' understanding of materials and their properties. The type of clay chosen, the thickness of walls, the design of cavities, and the methods for drying and firing the molds demonstrate sophisticated knowledge of thermodynamics and material behavior. This is knowledge gained through observation, experimentation, and generations of practical experience, a legacy encoded in humble clay. Even today, these molds inspire reflection on human creativity. They remind us that technological innovation does not always require metal, engines, or electricity. Sometimes the careful shaping of clay, guided by observation and intention, can transform human life and culture. The molds teach patience, precision, and the enduring value of skill passed through mentorship, practice, and community. The Minoan molds also invite us to consider the intersection of utility and beauty. While some molds created strictly functional tools, others cast objects with decorative or ceremonial purposes. These objects reflect social hierarchy, religious practice, and aesthetic values, demonstrating that technology and artistry were intertwined. The molds themselves, though utilitarian, carry traces of this dual purpose, embodying the creativity, ambition, and cultural values of their makers. Even the process of imagining the molten bronze flowing into the molds evokes a sense of quiet drama. The glowing liquid fills every cavity, conforming to the shape carved by human hands, and solidifies into objects capable of shaping life, defending families, and participating in ritual. The molds are the invisible architects, translating human intention into reality, connecting imagination to material existence. Through centuries, these molds, buried and forgotten, preserved the ingenuity of the Minoans. They endured earthquakes, shifting sands, and the passage of countless generations, only to be rediscovered by modern archaeologists. In the careful excavation and study of these objects, we find a direct link to a world where skill, observation, and devotion to craft shaped society, empowered communities, and forged civilization itself. The Minoan molds remind us that innovation often begins with simple materials. Clay, shaped by hand, becomes the template for complex, lasting creations. Knowledge, skill, and intention transform raw earth into tools, weapons, and objects that influence life, culture, and history. These molds are records of human intelligence, patience, and adaptability, preserved for us to study, imagine, and appreciate. Even now, holding one of these molds, or envisioning it, elicits wonder. The curve of a cavity, the smoothness of a wall, the care in shaping each detail, every aspect speaks of dedication, foresight, and understanding. The mold is both object and idea, a physical vessel carrying centuries of thought, labor, and cultural knowledge. Through these molds, we can reconstruct aspects of Minoan society. Workshops hum with activity, families thrive in nearby homes, and communities are sustained by tools, weapons, and artistry. Each object cast from clay reflects the labor of many, the coordination of knowledge, and the continuity of human skill across generations. And so the Minoan molds of Palekastro remain, silent yet eloquent, teaching us about creation, labor, and the human capacity to shape both objects and civilization. They are reminders that even in simplicity, extraordinary insight, creativity, and ingenuity can flourish, leaving enduring legacies that connect past to present, imagination to reality, and humans to the world they inhabit. The beast that guarded empires. In the ancient city of Babylon, where the Euphrates winds its way through fertile plains, stories of gods, kings, and mythical creatures intertwine with the earth, the sky, and the imagination of its people. Among these tales, one figure stands prominently in art and memory: the mushfush, a serpentine dragon-like creature whose image has endured for thousands of years, a symbol of protection, power, and the intricate beliefs of one of the world's earliest civilizations. The mushfush, with its scaled body, lion-like forelegs, eagle's talons, and a long twisting tail, strikes a figure both fearsome and regal. Its form, painted on temple walls, carved into reliefs, and etched in stone, served as a guardian, warding off evil and ensuring divine favor for the city it watched over. To the ancient Babylonians, this creature was not mere decoration; it embodied authority, vigilance, and the sacred connection between mortal and divine. Imagine standing in front of the grand Ishtar Gate, the towering blue-glazed bricks gleaming under the Mesopotamian sun. The mushhushu winds across the gate, each scale meticulously crafted, each claw poised as if ready to defend. Visitors entering the city would see its serpentine body, coiling and twisting, an eternal sentinel watching over Babylon. Its presence was both intimidating and reassuring, signaling the power of the gods and the security they bestowed upon those within the city walls. In the quiet moments of early morning, before the city awakens, one can almost feel the presence of the mushhushu. Imagine the soft breeze moving across the reliefs, the gentle play of light and shadow across its scaled form. There is a sense of stillness, of vigilant patience. This creature, frozen in stone yet alive in imagination, has been guarding Babylon through the centuries, silent yet ever present. The mythology surrounding the mushhushu is as rich as its image is intricate. It is often associated with Marduk, the chief deity of Babylon, who is said to have conquered chaos and established order. The mushhushu, as a divine companion, embodies that victory over disorder, standing as a reminder that power, courage, and vigilance are necessary to maintain balance in both the divine and human realms. Beyond its mythological significance, the mushhushu also offers insight into Babylonian artistry and craftsmanship. Each relief, each carving, was the result of skilled artisans who understood proportion, symmetry, and symbolism. The creature's body twists and coils with deliberate elegance, its features exaggerated to emphasize strength and authority. Its forelegs, muscular and poised, communicate the power to protect. Its serpentine tail conveys agility and eternal vigilance. Its scaled body captures the imagination and the divine essence attributed to it. As we envision the creature in context, we see priests and worshippers passing beneath its image, offering prayers, performing rituals, and acknowledging the protection it symbolizes. In homes and temples, miniature representations of the mushkuj may have been present, carved into amulets or painted on walls, a constant reminder of divine guardianship. Even in everyday life, its form would inspire respect, caution, and a sense of connection to the spiritual world. The mushkuj also teaches about the interplay between human belief and artistic expression. Its image is a fusion of multiple creatures: serpent, lion, eagle, each chosen to communicate specific qualities: strength, agility, and vigilance. This combination reflects the Babylonians' ability to abstract and synthesize, to use imagination to embody ideas and ideals in visual form. Through its hybrid body, the mushkuj becomes a symbol of creative thought as much as of divine protection. Walking through the imagined streets of Babylon, one can hear the distant sounds of merchants, children, and craftsmen. The city hums with life, yet above it all, the mushkuj remains poised in the reliefs and carvings, a silent observer. Its eyes, carved with precision, seem to follow the movement of the city, eternally vigilant. It reminds us that in ancient times, art, myth, and daily life were intertwined, each informing and shaping the other. Consider the act of carving such a creature into stone or clay. An artisan carefully measures proportions, carves scales, defines claws, and shapes the serpentine body with painstaking attention to detail. Each line and curve carries meaning, both aesthetic and symbolic. The mushkuju is more than a guardian. It is an expression of knowledge, skill, and devotion. Its form is deliberate, intended to convey authority and inspire awe in all who behold it. Beyond its immediate presence, the mushkuju embodies continuity. Generations of Babylonians would grow up with its image, internalizing the values it represents. Children learn tales of its power and vigilance. Citizens recognize its symbolism in protecting the city and maintaining cosmic order. In this way, the creature bridges generations, serving as a constant reminder of cultural values, divine connection, and the importance of vigilance, courage, and wisdom. Even today, the Mushkuju continues to inspire. Archaeologists and historians study its form, uncovering insights into Babylonian religion, art, and society. Artists and storytellers draw from its hybrid form, finding inspiration in its strength, elegance, and complexity. The creature, though born of myth, remains a living presence in our imagination, a bridge across millennia. Imagine the Mushkuju in motion, its scaled body coils through temple reliefs, eyes glinting with purpose, its claws grip imaginary terrain, its tail winds behind it, balancing and guiding. In the quiet moments of reflection, one can almost hear a whisper of the past, the stories, the rituals, the prayers that surrounded this majestic creature. Each stone and each carving is imbued with the energy of human devotion, imagination, and reverence. The Mushkuju also symbolizes protection on both a literal and spiritual level. It guards the city, the people, and the sacred spaces, and it embodies the broader theme of order triumphing over chaos. In its hybrid form, it communicates strength, vigilance, and the capability to respond to multiple threats, combining the attributes of several creatures to create a singular symbol of divine power and security. Through its presence, we are reminded of the sophistication of Babylonian culture. The combination of mythology, art, and daily life reveals a civilization attentive to symbolism, invested in ritual, and skilled in expressing complex ideas through tangible forms. The Mushkushu is a manifestation of these values, a creature born from imagination, devotion, and the human desire to understand, control, and honor the forces that shape life. Even in the silent halls of modern museums, the Mushkushu continues to evoke awe. Its intricate form, preserved through millennia, speaks to the enduring power of myth and art. Scholars examine its scales, claws, and posture, uncovering details that reveal not only artistic technique but also the cultural and spiritual significance of this guardian of Babylon. Each observation strengthens our understanding of how ancient humans combined creativity, devotion, and technical skill to produce objects of lasting influence. The myth of the Mushkushu also reflects the interplay between narrative and symbolism. By combining the serpent, lion, and eagle, the Babylonians created a creature capable of representing multiple qualities simultaneously: strength, vigilance, agility, and divine favor. In doing so, they crafted not only a guardian but a story, a legend that could be transmitted across generations, visually and orally, reinforcing social cohesion, moral values, and cultural identity. Walking through the imagined city once more, one can feel the layers of history. Citizens pass beneath the Mushkushu's gaze, merchants trade goods, priests perform rituals, and the creature watches silently, a constant presence linking heaven, earth, and human ambition. Its form inspires caution and respect. Its symbolism conveys protection and authority, and its presence bridges the mortal and divine realms. Even in quiet contemplation, one senses the Mushkushu's enduring message that vigilance, courage, and wisdom are vital for harmony, both within human society and between humans and the divine. It reminds us that symbols, myths, and stories carry weight, shaping thought, action, and belief across generations. The creature's image, etched in stone and preserved through centuries, serves as a meditation on strength, creativity, and the power of imagination. As we reflect on the Mushkushu, we are invited to connect with the past, to envision the artisans who carved its form, the priests who honored it, the citizens who recognized its significance, and the kings who saw it as a protector of their reign. We imagine the flicker of torches on temple walls, the reverent whispers of prayers, and the sense of awe inspired by a creature that bridges myth, art, and daily life. The Mushkushu endures as a symbol, teaching us about the intricate relationships between humans, their beliefs, and their environment. Its hybrid form, carved with precision and imagination, embodies protection, power, and the human capacity to convey complex ideas through art. It reminds us that mythology is not separate from reality but intertwined with the daily experience, shaping thought, behavior, and culture. Even today, when we observe its image, we can sense the vigilance, strength, and guardianship it embodies. The Mushkushu is more than a mythical creature. It is a witness, a teacher, and a bridge across time. Its presence evokes contemplation, inspires awe, and connects us to the civilization that envisioned, honored, and preserved it. Through the Mushkushu, we glimpse Babylon's grandeur, the city's walls, the hum of daily life, the rituals performed in its temples, and the artistry embedded in every carving. We see the power of myth to protect, inspire, and guide, and we recognize the enduring significance of creativity, devotion, and imagination in shaping human experience. And so, the Mushkushu remains, a serpentine guardian of memory, a witness to empires, and a symbol of the enduring bond between humanity, imagination, and the divine. Its form invites reflection, its story inspires awe, and its presence bridges past and present, reminding us that even in silence, legends endure. The gaze that echoed empires. In the ancient city of Nimrud, Once a thriving heart of the Assyrian Empire, there lies a limestone head that has captivated archaeologists, historians, and dreamers alike. Known today as the Mona Lisa of Nimrud, this sculpture is more than stone. It is a window into the lives, beliefs, and artistry of a civilization that flourished thousands of years ago. Its serene expression, enigmatic smile, and finely detailed features convey a presence that transcends time, drawing the observer into the quiet dignity and mystery of the past. Imagine standing in the ruins of Nimrud, where the sun casts long shadows across the remnants of grand palaces, temples, and streets once bustling with life. The air carries a mix of dust, earth, and history, and amidst the scattered stones and fragments of walls lies the Mona Lisa of Nimrud, her gaze fixed forward, unchanging, as if aware of the centuries that would pass around her. There is an extraordinary stillness in her expression, a calmness that invites contemplation and reflection. The limestone head is believed to represent either a queen or a goddess, though certainty is elusive. The sculptor captured delicate features, the curve of the lips, the gentle arch of the eyebrows, and the smooth planes of the face, with precision and care. Each detail communicates authority, serenity, and timeless beauty. The Mona Lisa of Nimrud, though silent, speaks of power, grace, and the intricate artistry of the Assyrians, who excelled in blending realism with idealization to create images that were both striking and enduring. In her original setting, she may have adorned a palace wall, a temple sanctuary, or a ceremonial hall, witnessing the daily rituals, the arrival of emissaries, and the passage of kings and queens. The Assyrians valued images that communicated status, devotion, and divinity, and this limestone head embodies those ideals. Its gaze, calm yet compelling, seems to follow those who approach, a silent observer of the human drama unfolding around it. Imagine the sculptor's workshop, filled with the sounds of chisels striking limestone, the smell of dust, and the light of oil lamps casting shadows across half-carved stone. An artisan, with hands worn from years of labor, carefully shapes the features, smoothing the contours and refining the details. Each stroke is deliberate, each curve intentional, designed to convey dignity, poise, and authority. The sculptor's vision transforms raw stone into a living presence, a face capable of bridging centuries and speaking to generations yet to come. The Mona Lisa of Nimrud is more than a work of art. It is a record of culture, society, and human aspiration. It reflects the Assyrians' appreciation for aesthetic beauty, their reverence for rulers and deities, and their technical skill in sculpture. Every line and curve is a testament to the care and devotion invested in its creation. Through this head, we glimpse a world in which art was intertwined with religion, politics, and social identity, where images served as both symbols and tools of influence. As we imagine approaching the sculpture, there is a sense of intimacy despite the passage of millennia. Her eyes, though carved in stone, seem aware of the viewer, drawing one into reflection. The Mona Lisa of Nimrud embodies mystery. Who was she? A queen commanding respect and loyalty, or a goddess embodying divine authority? Perhaps she was both, a figure whose presence inspired reverence, loyalty, and wonder in those who gazed upon her in antiquity. The surrounding ruins whisper stories of life and power. Palaces once bustling with courtiers and artisans, temples where incense and prayers rose toward the heavens, streets filled with merchants and citizens. All of this forms the backdrop for the limestone head. In this context, her expression conveys not only beauty but the weight of authority, the calm observation of a world governed by human ambition and divine aspiration. In every groove, in every subtle curve of her lips and eyes, there is intention. The sculptor understood the power of gaze and posture, crafting a visage that communicates both serenity and command. This artistry invites viewers to linger, to study, and to reflect on the civilization that produced such mastery. The Mona Lisa of Nimrud teaches us that even in silence, art can convey history, belief, and emotion across the ages. Picture the ceremonies she might have witnessed: priests in flowing robes performing rituals, offerings laid at altars, music filling sacred halls. The limestone head, ever watchful, silently acknowledges the devotion and hierarchy that structured Assyrian life. Her gaze, serene yet penetrating, embodies both presence and permanence, a reminder that the ideals and authority of her society were meant to endure. The mystery surrounding her identity deepens her allure. Was she a real queen, immortalized in stone to inspire awe and respect? Or was she a divine figure, a goddess, whose presence in temple or palace sanctioned the authority of mortals and bridged the human and spiritual realms? Perhaps the ambiguity was intentional, a testament to the Assyrians' understanding that power, divinity, and influence could be communicated subtly, through posture, expression, and gaze. Even in our modern era, the Mona Lisa of Nimrud evokes curiosity and wonder. Archaeologists, historians, and visitors study her carefully, seeking insight into Assyrian society, artistry, and belief systems. Each observation uncovers details about clothing, style, and technique. while also prompting reflection on the broader cultural and religious context of her time. She is a bridge across millennia, linking contemporary imagination with the lived reality of ancient Assyria. Imagine the first moment her head was uncovered from centuries of sand and debris. Hands brushed away layers of dust, slowly revealing her serene face, eyes still captivating, expression still enigmatic. The discovery was more than archaeological, it was a meeting across time, a moment where history, art, and human curiosity converged. Scholars and enthusiasts alike felt the power of connection, a tangible link to a civilization whose echoes survive in stone. Through her presence, we can reconstruct aspects of Assyrian life. Royalty and religious figures shaped political and spiritual structures, while artisans and laborers contributed skill and devotion. The Mona Lisa of Nimrud embodies all of these forces, a focal point for understanding authority, devotion, and creativity in one of history's great empires. Her gaze reflects not only herself but the people, rituals, and culture that brought her into being. Even the passage of time has enhanced her mystique. Centuries of sand, war, and human movement could not erase her form. Each surviving detail, from the curve of her lips to the planes of her face, offers insight into the values, aesthetics, and techniques of her creators. In this endurance, there is a lesson that art, carefully crafted and deeply meaningful, can transcend the instability of human history, preserving memory and influence far beyond its original context. The Mona Lisa of Nimrud invites meditation. One can imagine the warmth of the Mesopotamian sun on limestone, the whispers of history carried on the wind, and the continuous flow of human activity around her. In this contemplation, the face becomes a portal into the mind of the sculptor, the soul of the civilization, and the enduring human desire to create, preserve, and inspire. Her serene smile, subtle and enigmatic, mirrors the complexity of life in Assyria, the interplay of power, devotion, artistry, and human aspiration. Each observer, ancient or modern, brings their own interpretation, a dialogue across time facilitated by the permanence of stone and the universality of human perception. As we reflect on the Mona Lisa of Nimrud, we sense her role as more than a portrait. She is a witness to history, a symbol of authority, a representation of cultural ideals, and a masterful example of artistic skill. In her gaze, one perceives both calm and command, a timeless reminder of the civilization that produced her and the enduring resonance of art that captures both human and divine essence. Even today, standing before her image in museums or imagining her amidst the ruins, we are drawn into a quiet dialogue across millennia. Her presence encourages reflection on leadership, devotion, artistry, and the ways in which humanity seeks to preserve memory and identity through form, expression, and craft. The Mona Lisa of Nimrud endures, serene and enigmatic, bridging past and present. Her gaze echoes empires, whispers the stories of kings and queens, of gods and mortals, of artisans whose hands shaped her, and of observers who continue to find meaning in her expression. Through her, the ancient Assyrian world speaks to us still, inviting contemplation, reverence, and imagination, a timeless connection across history. The head that witnessed eternity. In the rolling landscapes of prehistoric Germany, where dense forests once whispered with the rustle of leaves and the calls of distant animals, archaeologists uncovered a site that would offer a rare and haunting glimpse into the lives and rituals of ancient peoples. This site, known today as the Metzendorf-Wachsdorf head burial, contains a decapitated head carefully placed within the earth, a striking testament to the symbolic practices, beliefs, and reverence for life and death among prehistoric communities. Imagine the site as it might have been, 3,000 or 4,000 years ago. An open field, bordered by trees, where people gathered for rites and ceremonies. The air is filled with earthy scents, the low murmur of voices, and the crackle of ritual fires. Here, amidst carefully laid stones and ceremonial markers, a human head is placed with deliberation, suggesting a deep understanding of life, death, and the spiritual world. Though the identity of the individual is unknown, the careful treatment speaks volumes about the society that created this burial. The Metzendorf-Wachsdorf head burial is remarkable, not only for its preservation, but for the insight it offers into prehistoric thought. Decapitation as a practice may have carried profound symbolic meaning, perhaps a belief in the separation of body and spirit, an act of respect for the dead, or a ritual designed to ensure the safe passage of the soul. Archaeologists studying the site note the positioning, orientation, and surrounding artifacts, each detail carefully considered by those who lived in an era long before written records. Imagine the hands of prehistoric people, gently lowering the head into a prepared pit. The soil is soft, dark, and cool, absorbing the weight of what is being laid to rest. Nearby, offerings may have been placed, fragments of pottery, tools, or animal bones, objects meant to accompany the deceased into the afterlife. The head itself, though separated from the body, is treated with dignity, a silent witness to both the life that once animated it and the care of those who honored it. As we reflect on the ancient mind behind this act, we consider the complexity of belief systems in prehistoric societies. Though lacking written language, these communities conveyed values, respect, and spiritual concepts through action, placement, and ritual. The Metzendorf-Wachsdorf head is a profound expression of this communication, a stone and soil testimony to reverence, memory, and the human desire to honor existence beyond death. Imagine the landscape surrounding the burial site. Mist clings to the low hills in the early morning, birds call in the distance, and the forest breathes around the field. In this quiet, one can almost sense the weight of centuries, the accumulated presence of those who lived, worked, and observed the cycles of life and death in this ancient world. Each layer of soil, each artifact, carries stories waiting to be rediscovered, and the head itself serves as a poignant focal point, bridging the divide between past and present. The burial raises questions that reach deep into the human experience. Who was this individual? A leader, a revered member of the community, or perhaps someone chosen for ritual significance? The decapitation, while startling to modern sensibilities, likely carried deep cultural meaning, a codified act that communicated power, transition, or spiritual protection. Scholars ponder the ritual's intent, seeking to understand the interplay between life, death, and social hierarchy in these early communities. Visualize the ceremonies that may have surrounded the act. The community gathers, solemn and attentive. Fires burn, casting flickering shadows across the faces of participants. Incantations or chants may rise in the air, words now lost to time but imbued with significance. The head is lowered carefully, perhaps accompanied by objects of personal or symbolic value. This moment, repeated across generations, forms the core of human engagement with mortality, a structured attempt to honor life while acknowledging its inevitable conclusion. The Metzendorf-Wachsdorf head burial also provides insight into prehistoric artistry and craftsmanship. The care and preparation, the selection of the burial site, and the possible adornments or associated artifacts reflect both practical skill and aesthetic awareness. Even in the absence of written language, these people expressed meaning, intention, and cultural identity through material choices, spatial arrangement, and ritualized behavior. As modern observers, we are drawn into a silent conversation with the past. The head, though inert, carries an aura of humanity. It invites reflection on mortality, reverence, and the ways humans have sought to preserve memory and honor existence across time. In studying it, we connect not only with the physical past, but with the emotional and spiritual life of those who placed it there, forming a bridge across thousands of years. Consider the surrounding artifacts discovered at the site. Tools, fragments of pottery, and remnants of fire pits all contribute to our understanding of the social and ritual context. Each item, though humble, holds significance, indicating the care and deliberation involved in creating the burial. Together with the head, these elements construct a narrative of respect, ceremony, and the deep human impulse to mark transitions from life to death. The landscape itself seems to participate in the ritual. Wind rustles through the trees, leaves fall softly to the ground, and sunlight shifts across the field, illuminating the burial in changing patterns. The head, once uncovered and studied by archaeologists, retains a connection to this environment, suggesting that the placement was not arbitrary, but carefully chosen for symbolic or practical reasons. The harmony between site and ritual reflects the prehistoric understanding of human life as intertwined with nature, the seasons, and the spiritual realm. The Metzendorf-Wachsdorf head burial teaches us that human expression is not limited to words. Through action, placement, and symbolism, prehistoric peoples communicated complex ideas about authority, spirituality, and mortality. This single head, preserved against time, embodies centuries of cultural knowledge, ritual practice, and human reflection on the mysteries of life and death. Imagine walking through the modern site, aware of the layers of history beneath your feet. Each step connects the present to the past, each stone a testament to human ingenuity, belief, and reverence. The head, serene and silent, continues to command attention, inviting contemplation of the rituals, fears, and hopes of those who first placed it in the earth. Even in its stillness, the head inspires imagination. One envisions the faces of those who participated in the ceremony, the whispered prayers, the songs or chants, the careful handling of the remains, and the intent to honor and protect. This act of placing a head in the ground becomes more than a burial. It is a narrative, frozen in time, a story expressed through care, symbolism, and ritual action. The Metzendorf-Wachsdorf head burial also underscores the universality of human concern with mortality. Across time and cultures, humans have sought to understand and negotiate the transition from life to death, to preserve memory, and to honor those who have passed. The head, positioned with care and accompanied by objects of significance, embodies this timeless human impulse. As we reflect further, we see that the burial serves multiple purposes: a record of social structure, an expression of spiritual belief, a demonstration of artistic skill, and a bridge between the living and the dead. The placement, orientation, and associated artifacts all contribute to a narrative that transcends centuries, offering insight into the worldview of a people long vanished. The head presence in modern scholarship connects us to these prehistoric individuals, allowing us to reconstruct not only rituals but also aspects of daily life, social organization, and cultural values. It speaks to the care and deliberation involved in human expression, reminding us that even in early societies, individuals and communities possess the capacity for reflection, respect, and symbolic communication. Imagine the quiet moments in which the head rested undisturbed for centuries, buried beneath earth and soil. Time passed, civilizations rose and fell, and the natural world moved around it, yet the head remained, a silent witness to change, decay, and renewal. When it was finally uncovered, it bridged the past and present, allowing modern observers to connect intimately with a prehistoric culture. Even today, viewing the head evokes a sense of reverence, curiosity, and wonder. Scholars and visitors alike contemplate its meaning, its creation, and the hands that placed it with care. Through this singular object, we are invited to consider the universality of human experience, the importance of ritual, and the enduring significance of memory and respect. The Metzendorf-Wachsdorf head burial stands as a testament to the human need to honor life and navigate the mysteries of death. Its presence is both haunting and comforting, offering a glimpse into the minds, hearts, and hands of those who lived thousands of years ago. The head witnessed eternity then, and through its preservation, continues to witness eternity now. In imagining the prehistoric community, we see lives intertwined with the land, the seasons, and the spiritual world. The head's careful placement reflects not only ritual practice, but also a profound awareness of mortality, legacy, and the enduring power of human expression. Through this lens, we are reminded that even in silence, objects can speak, connecting us to distant ancestors, their beliefs, and their reverence for life and death. The head that witnessed eternity remains, serene and profound, a bridge across millennia, an invitation to reflection, and a silent testament to the universality of human experience. In its presence, one contemplates not only the prehistoric world but also the timeless human capacity for imagination, care, and the desire to honor what has passed while connecting with what endures. Thank you for joining us on this journey through history's hidden treasures. If you enjoyed exploring these incredible artifacts, please hit subscribe and give this video a like. We'd love to know where you're watching from and what time it is there. Until next time, keep uncovering the secrets of the past.